I see on the agenda that there's something about election of new chair
Yes.
and members.
It's mostly just that since Greg left. Yeah.
Is that gonna be on the commission anymore? Or like he left town?
I think he's just not on the commission anymore. I don't think he's leaving town, but I don't really know, because I only met him the last planning commission meeting, and then that was his last one, and so.
Oh, sad.
He seemed like a nice guy. But yeah, I think he's like fine, you know, he's just retiring or, I don't know, traveling more or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But so Francie, I think is taken over, but it has to be like an official sort of motion, but I believe so, and I think it's kind of a,
Gonna be co-pilot.
Yeah.
All right. 15 minutes till broadcast. Showtime. But the clock's a little fast.
Bounce around, there was no page number, I mean, it was just called, but
right.
down to PDFs, there were.
Glad we were shooting that out. Yeah.
We have everyone tonight that's here? Good.
Recording in progress.
And Kristen, you're gonna get one more application this week sometime.
Great. We've gotten a couple more since we extended.
Good,
Yeah.
excellent. It's always good to have more than we need.
It's because Tommy flyered downtown.
Oh, yeah, go Tommy.
Oh, did you?
What was that?
I didn't do that. Yeah, I forgot to do that.
Oh, you forgot to do it, so it wasn't, we can't credit you with the extra people.
That's funny.
That's funny.
It's okay, your face was like...
I just think that the original period, time period, being right around Memorial Day, was kind of a deterrent.
I mean, it was
as well.
out for like a month.
Yeah. People have to think about it, have to be around, and, you know. Anyway, it's good, it's all good. 6, everyone should vote.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just have to make that clear, or we can probably just make it at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
That it applies to the whole meeting.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
okay.
Mr. Reimer.
How you doing, Francie?
Hiya.
Corey, Molly, Chris, how's it going?
Alright, the packet, PowerPoint.
Scott, we're gonna make the next round.
We have to go off the result.
That wasn't a resounding yes.
Pretty good in the second half, I guess we're all going to go lucky, shut it down. We'll find out.
That's why they play the games. All right.
What's new? Did your house finish?
I got an egress window, I'm hanging sheetrock, having electrical inspections.
Well, that's big.
Yeah. For the rough end, at least.
Yeah, anytime you pass an inspection, it's a big deal, right?
Well, my dad was an electrical contractor, so he was in town last week. Coached me a little.
Good, excellent, excellent. It's hard for you to get in it too.
It is, yeah. I was actually an electrical apprentice back in high school. In high school, that was 40 years ago, though, so there's
Right?
almost, not quite 40, but codes have changed, so. But yeah, it was good.
Those have changed, but wires haven't.
No.
Reds and blacks, you know.
Yeah, but how they connect together and the different spacings and everything else.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's, got it. What did you find out? Oh my gosh. No, I don't, I'm not worthy.
Oh, go for it. You are worthy.
No. Here you go.
Roll them down. Woo!
That's pretty cool.
So exciting.
I'm thinking to myself that Mauricio Pochettino has really got a little bit of Don Reimer thing on.
Oh, yeah?
You know who that is?
He's the USA coach, right? Or manager, or whatever they call him.
Yes, there's a big lookalike there.
My doppelganger is okay.
USMNT,
Okay. Well,
not too bad.
maybe I'll be a very popular
Okay.
guy when they win it all, right?
Well, I think you should maybe go, is that for Halloween?
Maybe
I
so.
think you should go to the World Cup and try to get in. You know?
I don't think
It's all in the attitude. You show up acting like you belong.
No. What'd you do to your,
Oh, I broke my wrist.
was it a good story or
Even with the new ways.
I fell down some rocks and landed on the sidewalk. Not a great story, no.
you weren't in a
4 foot
match
jump.
or anything?
No. My what are the UFC? My UFC career? No.
Okay. You can have them both.
I don't want to vote, I just want to good. It's like Lily talking, you know, it's jitters. But one is good. Put him up a bit.
Seems like it might be kind of a quiet meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we may have a lot of questions, but yeah, I think Bill did a really good job of outlining the code changes while moving around and those kinds of things, which is good. Clarifications. I did have a couple of questions. Oh, wait.
Kristen. A little tomato.
garden. It's so tiny. It's a little tomato from my garden. First one.
I went to my sister's house in Charlotte.
Depressing.
They planted like, 2-3 months ago.
Yeah.
Plants are like cocoa.
Yeah. And ours still look like, ugh. I know. So if you bring it by, I'll give you a little tiny basil.
Oh,
I could make a little tiny caprese.
just a bite.
Just a teeny tiny caprese.
Aaron, good. How are you?
Tired.
Yeah.
I know, this heat is just like,
Have you been traveling?
Yeah, we did a river trip and then I was in Wyoming and
Oh my gosh.
Bivark.
Wow, no wonder you're tired.
Now I'm cross-eyed.
Right, well, come to the meeting to rest.
Yeah.
exactly.
We can start the meeting. You're here, we can start.
3 seconds.
You're all good, Kenny.
With my watch.
You're good.
Accurate.
Well, I have 6 o'clock. Are we online? Are we ready to go?
Ready to go?
Maybe, yes, okay. 6 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Bowman.
Here.
Here.
Bush.
Here.
Layton.
Here.
Reimer.
Here.
Kamaraki.
Here.
Walquist.
Here.
Hodges.
Here.
Me. Suzie.
Here.
And is the attorney.
Nina is online.
Any amendments to the agenda?
Yeah, we'd like to request that we
take care of new business first,
Okay.
and then we'll get into the public hearing after that.
Okay. So we can start though by approving the minutes
Yeah, you can go ahead and approve
Yeah,
the minutes.
from May 12th. Hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
I was absent.
I have a first and a I forgot I had to do that. I have a first and a second to approve the minutes from May 12th from the Planning Commission regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any scheduled citizens online, because there's no one here?
Let me double check. There are no attendees outside of Nina.
Okay, and we've already established that there is an amendment. We're going to move new business up, and we would like to assign our alternate Laura to vote on all topics tonight.
Okay.
Okay. So the new business is not a public hearing,
No, it is not.
so we're just going to select a chair and a vice chair. And you
Yep.
want to go through how that's going to work, Bill?
Yep, so in order to do that, all we need is a nomination for chair first. We'll deal with that one at a time. And once there is a single nomination, we'll just take a hand vote for that position. And should that person receive a positive approval for that position, then we'll move on to the vice chair and do the same thing. So with that, would anybody like to nominate anybody for the chair position?
I nominate Francie for chair.
Okay. And so let's see. We
Does
got
it need a
Bush,
second?
Nominate. I don't believe so. Nina, do we need a second on that?
It's always best for all motions to have a second.
What was that?
Say that one more time. We
It's-
can hear you.
It's always great for motions to have a second.
Always great.
Yes.
Second.
Do we have a second? All right. Leighton. Okay. Thank you. In the box, we cannot hear Nina. Oh, are the speakers on?
The speakers are
Oh,
on.
testing, testing. Can you hear me?
We can hear you're just very quiet. And
That's never been said about me.
we'll work on it
Yeah,
on the
we'll see if we
background.
can get that figured out. Okay, all right, so we have a nomination for Francie Bomer as chair. So we'll go ahead and take hands for all those who are in support of Francie being chair.
Thank you for your support.
The only one who said no was Francie. No, just kidding. All right.
Do I make a speech?
Do you want the job?
All right.
I will accept it.
Promised a 20.
Yeah, I know. Where's the money, right?
Okay.
Table.
All right, congratulations,
Thank
Francie.
you very much.
All right. Do we have a nomination for vice chair?
Aaron has expressed to me that he would like to have his name put in for vice chair.
Okay, and we got a nomination from Francie on that. Anyone like to second that?
I'll second it.
All right. Good deal. So we have a nomination for Aaron Duringson as vice chair. And all those in favor, raise your hand, please. All right. Excellent.
Thank y'all.
Woohoo. Congratulations, both of you.
Yay.
Good deal. Okay, then moving on to the next order of business. So as some of you may recall, we do have a IGA with the county, and it specifically states that we have a regional planning commission that consists of 3 members of this body as well as 3 members of the county planning commission. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time, but only recently have a couple of land use applications come into the county where this would be really applicable. And so we've been working with our counterparts over there. They recently had their 3 planning commissioners voted in to partake in the RPC. And so I said that we would go ahead and do the same at this meeting. I do recognize that we don't have a full body at this time, but since we do have a quorum and we do have enough people, I'd like to gauge interest of those who are interested in being on the RPC, and we'll do this a little bit differently. If we have more than 3 that are really truly interested, then we can go to more of a vote system, but otherwise, if we can just figure out 3, at this point, regular members priority, and if not, then we could take an alternate, so.
Can you explain, because I mean, I
Absolutely.
understand what this is, but I don't know that the others really do. Maybe
Yeah,
Don does. but
I
the
don't
others-
have the specific IGA language in front of me, but basically, this will come up for land use applications that go to the county that are within the municipal planning area or municipal services area that specifically have to do with development potential impacting or potentially impacting the city. We can certainly call that language up. Thank you.
So
Hey,
just
that
to
was quick.
interrupt briefly, this is
Yeah.
by definition not inside city limits, but it's in the planning area, so it affects us.
Correct, exactly. So, thank you.
Generally can't be annexed right away either.
Yeah, and exactly. And so it's for development proposals on property that cannot be annexed immediately for one reason or another. It may have to do with the contiguity of that particular property within city limits or other potential.
So, just while we're on the topic, is it correct, my understanding is that if property meets those requirements, it has to come before the city first? Is that true? For
Virtually
annexation?
any substantial development that is within the municipal planning area gets referred to the city, at least to city staff. And I was trying to jump to the specific language here to help further highlight the exact situation when RPC comes into account. There are now, just so you know, it says that they shall meet every 3 months at minimum. I think there's a little bit of flexibility with that, given the fact that we haven't met in like 5 years.
Actually, I think it's more like
Just a
10
little
years.
flexible.
Yeah. I'll read it because there's a few really good things
Yeah.
to know here. The Salida RPC shall review land use development applications upon referral by the city or county as required in the articles, and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners and City Council with respect to specific developments and general projects proposed within the municipal planning area. The members of the RPC shall be appointed for 1-year terms. The appointment date shall be consistent with the appointment date for each entity's planning commission. And each governmental entity shall endeavor to appoint members who can be present at meetings of the Salida RPC and at any field trip or work session held in anticipation of such meeting. The appointed members of the Salida RPC shall select a chairman by majority vote at the first meeting of the RPC in any given year. The Salida RPC is also charged with considering the creation of joint overlay zoning districts or area plans such as railroad, river, and highway corridors. The Salida RPC is also charged with creating land use development standards for future development in the MPA, so helping to identify the standards that any particular development in that area may have to adhere to. RPC shall meet at a date and location to be mutually agreed upon. Generally speaking, it would be at the Board of County Commissioners chamber or potentially in the city council chambers. And quorum shall be 4 members. So, I mean, that's in a nutshell kind of what the requirements would be. It's obviously pretty rare that we do see these particular development applications come in. I would say 99% of the time, they're going to be coming into the county, and they're going to be run primarily through the county's process because it is on county lands. So, but it really will help set the parameters around development that may be seen in those areas that are immediately surrounding the city limits, but can't don't necessarily have to adhere specifically to city development standards because they're not within the city limits, if that clarifies a little bit.
So what developments are upcoming that's precipitating this?
I am aware of at least one proposed development on the south side of town, along Highway 50 or in the vicinity of Highway 50, on a property that is adjacent to city limits, however, does not have the contiguity to be annexed. There may potentially be a rezone involved. There could potentially be other forms. I'm being vague, very, very.
Right.
Possible.
Can you get yelled at is really
I just, because it is a quasi judicial
Right.
scenario, I don't want to give too much.
That's fine, we don't have to elaborate.
Yeah.
So in the RPG meetings with the county, since it's county land and it's a county development, what would be your expectation of these three commissioners in that meeting?
Yeah, so whoever's the governing body, for process, the staff would be sending along the staff report in advance of the meeting with all the information as far as what the proposal is, would show what the existing jurisdiction's development standards are on that, and then taking into account the language that's in the IGA, would be in charge of both looking at those standards to see if the proposal meets them and potentially applying other additional development standards above and beyond that may be applicable in this particular case because it is the municipal planning area.
And that would be mutually agreeable? Is that what you're saying? So it would be, as I'm interpreting what you're saying, it would be up to our commissioners to really help to, not push, but help to sway the others to do some things that the city might prefer that they do?
Yeah, certainly to propose any additional development standards.
Based
to
on
be
our
adhered to.
requirements and our understanding of how we feel like the municipal services area should be operated.
Yeah, and I think it might, once we do have, three members, might behoove us to have, say, like a work session or something along those lines with that group to talk about the process. And frankly, maybe even bringing all the members in together and have all the staff in together so we could have a meeting before any sort of land use application.
I would think that would be a really positive thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any volunteers for this noble position?
I do it.
Yeah, Don, would you want to do it? Thank you, Dan.
I mean, I wrote the silly IGA 15 years ago.
I know. That's why I'm looking to you. I think you would be a really beneficial number.
I'll participate.
Okay, so we have two. Do we have a third? Kenny, you want to do
Sure.
it? Kenny, you'll do it?
I'll do it
Okay.
if no one else wants to.
Yeah. It's just a year.
I honestly, it's 1 year, and I honestly don't think, we haven't seen anything in quite some time. There's a separate provision that does allow staff and the applicant to enter into pre-annexation agreement that can sort of do an end around, I guess, to this process, if you will. That puts into place certain development standards, but that's not available in every case.
Right.
And I think we have seen a couple of those and had gone into some negotiations around it, and then the applicant kind of pulled out. So we haven't seen too many of that go forward. All that to say, I don't think it's a huge obligation on you all.
It shouldn't be.
You might see 1 or 2 a year, honestly. So, but I think it'd be a good, fun experience for everybody.
Yeah, I was on it many years ago, and we met one time, but we didn't do anything because the county didn't have their people. So we adjourned, and then the next time it came up, Giff got on it, and I don't think he ever had a meeting, so I mean.
There's only been one decision that I am
so it's
aware of
not
that came
very-
out of it.
All right, you guys, that's our goal.
Intensive. Right. You want a decision, right?
I think going back in time, the idea was really to encourage discussion between the
Right.
city and the county, because frankly,
Exactly.
maybe there wasn't
Yeah.
always good discussion
Yeah.
and communication. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of concern from folks in the city about getting hemmed in effectively by 2-acre developments.
Yeah.
And so that was really the impetus
Right.
back then.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Well, we've got our people, we've got our board.
Is everybody good with that?
Everybody's good?
Those three?
And thank you, Dan, for stepping right up.
Very good.
That's great.
All right.
And the rest of you as well, with a little arm twisting. All right, well, let's open the public hearing then for the staff report for the land use code changes and amendments.
I'm going to pass things over to Corey here in just a second.
Okay.
Just want to preface it by saying that now at this point, we've had approximately 6 months to kind of get used to the land use code that went into effect last December. Even in the time leading up to that, up to the effective date, we started to recognize various things that we're going to have to address. This is very typical of any land use code rewrite, especially an extensive one in which you start realizing things that were not as clear as they were intended to be, maybe didn't match up or line up with other parts of the land use code, or frankly, just realized it wasn't going to work. So we've been taking notes ever since it was approved. And then we were fortunate to have Corey come on board here recently, who has a fair amount of experience specifically with code rewrites.
Yay.
Put a bunch of time into the red lines that you all were emailed. Again, some apologies about the late minuteness of some of the information. Hopefully you did not prioritize this over FibArc this weekend.
No.
But Corey's going to go through all the changes and really break it down into the 3 categories. And we want to get through the presentation, lay out the land as far as what is being proposed, and then we can come back to more specific questions that you all have on each of these and then dive into.
Okay. And I just want to say for the record that there is proof of publication. So
Yep,
we have that.
I'll be able to go over all that. So with that, Corey, take it away.
Awesome, thanks, Bill. Good evening, everyone. For anyone who hasn't met me yet, because I think there's some new faces, my name is Corey Cece. I've been here a little over a month, and like Bill mentioned, I actually previously worked for Clarion, so who did the land use code update. However, I did not work on this project while I worked there. So new to me, but a little bit of background in code writing and updates. A little bit of background just about this project. As you guys know, this code was adopted on December 22nd, 2025. And like Bill mentioned, as we've gotten a chance to sort of implement it, we've noticed some things that just aren't working as intended, some things from the old code that just didn't make it into the new code that were omitted accidentally. There's also a couple things, some missing cross-references or other small grammatical errors. There were a couple of words that were misspelled, and so we'll kind of go over these. I'm going to take a little bit more time on the more substantive policy changes. We've got them broken down into 3. We've got substantive policy and process amendments, minor policy and process amendments, and then some administrative corrections. But I'll go ahead and start on the substantive ones. So these are going to be our amendments, our proposed amendments that clarify or modify requirements that have some significant policy or procedural, financial, operational impacts. The first is going to be corner lot setbacks. So currently these are the way corner lots are, we determine the front lot line. We just expanded the ability of the director to determine what the front lot line is and when the rear and side setbacks apply. And the point of that is for if you've got corner lots that are very narrow, just making sure that the front lot line applies in a way that makes the most sense given the neighborhood. The next is going to be height on uneven lots. This is something that staff ran into. We had some conversations about how exactly to interpret the current code language. It's a little unclear, and some of that is because the graphic doesn't seem to match what is actually written. And so staff talked about what we think that the intent of the height on uneven lots, how that is intended to be interpreted, and then just made some corrections and clarifications in the language to sort of just make that a little bit more clear. And then we've also got, and it'll show up later in this presentation, an updated graphic proposal, which Kristen has been able to put together. So that's still under work, but just to give you guys an idea of what that might look like. And then the third thing that we're looking at on this slide is going to be, we currently allow, the way it's written in code and in the use table is outdoor vendor singular and then outdoor vendors plural. And we are proposing to amend that to now change that to up to 2 and 3 or more outdoor vendors. And then we've also updated the use-specific standards and the definitions just so that they all matched, and we haven't created any inconsistencies there. So this is that proposed graphic for the height. Unless you're super familiar with it, this might not look a ton different, but we've just updated it to clarify exposed building height or exposed wall height versus building height. Something that was kind of tripping staff up was building height being used to refer to both the height above grade and then also the exposed face of the wall. And since the point of the height regulation for these uneven lots is to sort of prevent a sloped lot from having a big building mass that isn't being broken up, that sort of doesn't get around building height, but it doesn't meet the height standards. We just clarified some of the language to clarify when we're talking about that exposed height versus height above grade, and then adjusted the graphic to match that. Next, please. So the next big one is going to be sidewalk improvement fees in lieu. So this currently in code, I believe, is sidewalk construction, and it's related to sidewalk construction. So we're not changing when major developments are required to build a sidewalk. However, when you have got single-family development, minor subdivisions, multifamily development that is under 5 units, and any other development that is not required to build a sidewalk, previously, there was a sidewalk construction fee in lieu, and staff and Public Works was just having trouble determining when exactly that applied and how it should be charged and when it should be charged. And so we've made some updates to clarify, one, that this is a sidewalk improvement fee in lieu, just because we were kind of going back and forth on, well, if there is a sidewalk, does it then no longer have to pay the fee in lieu, because sidewalk construction fee in lieu implies that this is a fee in lieu of sidewalk construction. So we've changed that to sidewalk improvements just to clarify that this is a fee that also applies to not just the building of new sidewalks, but the maintenance of existing ones, just to better bring the code into compliance with staff intent and make that a little bit more clear. And also make sure that this fee will apply regardless of whether or not a sidewalk already exists. It'll be charged per linear foot along the front lot line. And some clarifications on fee timing depending on the development type. So whether that's a single family development coming in or if it's a minor subdivision. And also clarifying that this fee applies whenever there is development that is not already in a larger major subdivision where sidewalk improvements were already constructed. So if you were in a subdivision that there's already a sidewalk constructed as a part of that major subdivision, and you're just coming in for a building permit for your single family development, then in that case, the sidewalk fee in lieu would not apply. It only is going to apply in that case if you are further subdividing. So another minor subdivision, that is when that is. And as Bill mentioned, we did send out, if you want to look closer at that exact language, we can always do that. But that is the intent for that.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one other thing real quick into this. It really is about trying to create consistency and providing, a rational nexus for this particular fee that can be applied across the board, because basically there's a large distinction, obviously, between those who are required to construct the sidewalks as part of the subdivisions and those who may have either no sidewalk or a 100-year-old sidewalk in front of them, there's still going to need to be plenty of maintenance for that. And the true nexus is that development in general does put some demands on the sidewalk system that is generally around town. And of course, development does not mean just demand for a sidewalk immediately in front of your house, because you use much more than just that sidewalk in front of your house. You'll be using the sidewalks everywhere. So these fees would go into a general fund, or a specific fund rather, that would be used for sidewalk construction and improvements all around town, just to clarify that.
Awesome, thank you, Bill.
If we have questions, should we just make notes and bring them up later? Or?
Let's do that. I think we got a fair amount to get through, and then we can go back and revisit these. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, appreciate that, Bill. The next substantive policy change is the visibility triangle. This is another one that when we were actually implementing it and having development applications come in, we realized that it just wasn't meeting the intent. We were having some issues with especially corner lots that are on narrow, older lots, that this was kind of an overly burdensome potentially overly burdensome requirement, especially given that because it was measured at property line, in a case where there was maybe a large amount of, a broad sidewalk or plantings, that was providing more visibility for cars that wasn't getting captured by the current requirement. So we've updated it to now be measured from the edge of the roadway, and then updated the graphic accordingly, just to better meet the intent of providing vehicles that visibility triangle while still maintaining developability for the individual lots. All right, so the next one is murals. This is one that has kind of been something we've talked about a lot throughout staff, to make sure that we're allowing for murals and regulating what we can, and not having anything in code that implies that we're regulating something that is speech related. So currently there's some undefined language around business promotion. So we have added a definition to the code to define what business promotion means in the sense of murals. Also, currently, the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, or the ACAC, reviews certain mural types, but the code doesn't exactly explain what they should be looking for and any strict standards regarding that. And so we've proposed to remove the ACAC as an approval authority for murals on private property, as well, like adding a definition for business promotion, and adding a mural permitting process to help kind of catch and direct all these murals as they come in. Slide, please.
Y'all don't know how much of a pain this has actually been. Fortunately, you've been spared from it, but working with the ACAC on some of the murals that recently have come through has proven that we needed a new process, because nobody seemed to know what they were doing, and really everybody wanted to paint, pick out the paint color and everything else on this. And so we've gone a significantly different direction on it.
Yes, and yeah, just clarifying the intent even more, as those murals have come in, we've had a lot of conversations about what can we regulate, what can't we regulate, what do we not want to regulate, and where exactly the approval authority should lie. And so that's where that business promotion comes into effect. So just to walk you through the new process, or the proposed process, for a mural that is being proposed on city property, that will be reviewed by staff, and that will still go to the ACAC. Who will then recommend it to City Council for final decision. Now, on private property, there's a couple different branches. The first is if it's inside the historic district. And again, this will all be caught via the mural process. So that's when staff will say, okay, you're in the historic district, private property, residential, and we can check and make sure that these are all getting caught appropriately. But if you're inside the historic district, that's going to require the certificate of approval. And that's just for any paint that goes onto bricks in the historic district. That already requires a certificate of approval, so nothing is changing here. We're just making that a little bit more clear for when it comes up for a resident who might be reading this and wondering for the process. However, if you're outside of the historic district, if you're on residential property, then we don't consider it, it's not considered signage. It just, no permit is required. As long as there is no business promotion. Sorry, I'm trying to read, it's a little small. But yeah. As long as there is no business promotion, your mural is allowed on residential property. Again, there's some free speech things. We're not looking to regulate that. Again, as long as there's no business promotion, because then it becomes an off-street signage. If you're on non-residential property and there is no business promotion, then a mural permit is required. And that is just us checking to make sure that it is indeed not business promotion. If it is business promotion, then it is considered a sign, not a mural, and then it is subject to the other sign regulations. Most notably, that's going to be regulations regarding size is probably the big one. However, if someone does propose a mural that does not meet the allowed signage, they can, the applicant, if they want to, can apply for the creative sign process. So a little bit similar to what we already have. And so a really big business promotion mural does have the potential to go through that creative sign process. Next, please. Visibility triangle, we already mentioned, creative signs. Oh, just another piece on that creative sign, that we're proposing to remove the ACAC as an approval authority. Currently, it says that either the ACAC or Planning Commission can approve it, and so we're just proposing that Planning Commission be the ones to approve this. Location, character, and extent review. This clarifies a procedure for certain public utilities and buildings. It's something Kristen kind of mentioned that has come up before, and so we're just codifying that state statute. Similarly, the Home Act qualifying properties, we're just adding in that language to bring the code up to in alignment with state law. So we also have got some language regarding cottage housing, and I apologize that this was something we caught sort of at the 11th hour Thursday afternoon, and we wanted to get the agenda out to all of you guys as soon as possible. So just a note that we are still kind of double checking to make sure that we haven't accidentally introduced anything that's a conflict in the code. But again, just wanted to be open about that. So our current cottage housing definition, staff feels does not align with what we intended cottage housing to be. It's currently kind of grouped in with co-housing, and we think those are distinctly different, and so we want to separate those in the code, in the use table, use-specific standards and definitions. Also, the current code does not require that cottage home units be on separate lots, and it was staff's intent that cottage housing does have units on separate lots. And a reminder for anybody who maybe is unfamiliar with the cottage housing development type, that's when you have units that all face a common courtyard, typically served by an alley, and the benefit of doing cottage housing might be that you don't have to meet frontage requirements. That's kind of where it comes into play of what makes this different than just other single-family development on lots, is going to be not meeting those same street frontage requirements since they all face that common courtyard. And also what separates that from if you were to have 4 or 5 different units arranged in that pattern, but they are not on separate lots, they're all on one common lot. Well, that would qualify as multifamily, and could be also it could be a condo. And so that is why we want to make sure that this language differentiates cottage housing from multifamily in that way. And that's the big differentiator, is that they're on their own lots. And yes, so our proposed changes are just to update the standards and update the use table to make sure that all matches.
Corey and Bill, I guess, since that's the substantive policy, there's a lot of things going on, would it be okay for people to ask questions of that group before we go to the others?
Yeah, I think we could do that.
That way we're not stringing it, because these are the substantive ones.
Yeah, that's
so
absolutely.
Let's,
while it's still fresh.
right, let's do that and go back to the beginning, see if anybody has any comments or questions on starting with corner lot setbacks and primary block face. Right? Or anything, I mean, if you just want to go through, I'd kind of like to take it in order of the way they were presented to us, though, just so we don't get bounced around.
No questions.
No questions on that? The height on uneven lots, okay, Kenny?
I have two questions on that. You used a term that I haven't heard before, single-family development. What did you mean by that? I heard
like
you
I
just
just
say like
spoke, or-
single, as you were speaking, you said like, this would be, I can't remember exactly, but you said like a single-family development, and I'm unclear what you're implying by that. Like,
Just a single family, like a house for,
but my understanding is a house, a single-family house on a lot is not a development application, that's a building permit application. Is that correct?
correct.
Or-
And I might have just, again, misspoke.
I only
A
ask
single-
because
single
it's
family
been
just
like an
meaning,
important maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I had thought that was like a.
Yeah, no, I mean, the question has come up as far as what actually constitutes development. I think it's a little bit case specific, depending on the actual code section. I can't remember if we did we create a definition for development in here?
There's
In this
already
update.
a definition in the code.
There was one
Yeah.
existing, so.
I don't know that we changed it. Do you remember?
I don't think so. Again, I think I just misspoke. I meant single family dwelling.
Dwelling.
And again, coming from my background, every
Yeah,
place
no,
calls it
I
something
totally
different. So
understand.
I think I'm just, mixed
In
it.
this
But I
particular
understand your
case,
question,
we
yeah.
were talking about the structure itself, not.
So
Correct.
There's certain the criteria for like open space, inclusionary housing, things like that are tied to development applications.
Yep,
And-
and generally, we try to be specific about the type of development that is applicable in those cases.
Right.
So
Yeah.
in this case, height applies to anything that's not commercial or industrial.
Any structure on any
Any
lot
Or any
that's needing
structure.
to follow the dimensions.
I mean, the way it's measured, right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's
This is an
residential or.
application for building, like
Okay.
any building, right?
Yes.
Right, and this is in our measurement section.
Right.
So the point of this whole section is to say, hey, here's how you measure setbacks. This
Right.
is how you measure height. This is where, roof pitch, things like that. And so it's just a clarification for staff to make sure that we're measuring height consistently. Yes,
So
sir.
if it's an apartment building or a fourplex or a duplex or whatever, it would still apply.
Right, and this is specifically on uneven lots.
I think I've lost the thread here. Is the point if you have a really sloped lot, you just want to limit
Right.
that open wall to like 125% of the.
Yes.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
And that's also, we making sure that we're using the same verbiage of like, where are we measuring that? Where's that 125% coming from? Is it from, above average grade? So just some clarifying language in there.
And then you're measuring exposed wall height to the top of the roof, is that correct? The roof is part of the wall.
Yes. top of the
So
roof.
in this graphic, it's from this point down here to up here. Over here, it would be from the tallest point over here to the grade point around here. And same thing with at the front, you would take, I guess it would be maybe this point and then this point here. So it can change as the facade goes. It's that exposed face.
How is this, and maybe I'm unclear, but I thought we already took an average wall height, building height?
We use the average as a base for the measurement under the current code. This just further clarifies some of those other elements, and mostly because that graphic that we had in there, that we have in there currently is misleading
Okay.
at best. But you're still going to be taking the average grade as your base, right? But the only difference from that being that one wall face can't be greater than that 125%.
In the first 25 feet. Oh, sorry, anywhere.
Anywhere,
Yes, the
anywhere.
125, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Average wall height.
Yeah, the previous graphic, it showed the lower portion of the site at the public right-of-way, which I think was confusing because in the first 25 feet is where you're not allowed to exceed that 125. So we kind of flipped the sloped section that goes down to the rear of the house, which is probably in most cases where we would actually see, especially along like river properties, where we would see that exposed wall face.
So basically, you're saying you can't have like a 4-story walkout on a steep sloping lot where the front, like the average, you're
gotta
making the
step it
building
down.
height step down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Basically, it just couldn't be more than 43 feet.
It's all about the perceived bulk of the
I
structures. Yeah.
Could be 4 really small stories.
I would almost suggest making that even more dramatic on the back, maybe to illustrate the point, you know? Because those, I understand, I mean, I don't think I would pick that up from what I'm looking at here.
We can look at some more iterations.
Just a
Yeah.
minor
Yeah,
suggestion.
we're a little bit limited on the graphic side of things because we had utilized Clarion's graphic team
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
So Kristen actually kind of used Bluebeam to move some stuff around and delete some things. If it regards anything more specific, we may have to, it might take a little time for us to get that dialed in.
Or you could get the Sharpie.
Yeah.
Anybody else on height questions? How about outdoor vendors?
Yeah, and if did you touch on the outdoor vendors,
Yeah.
Corey? Might have-
Yes, but I'm more than happy to clarify anything.
It's just up
You've
to
got-
2 and 3 or more is really.
Yep, instead of 1 and multiple, it's up to 2 and 3 or more.
So so 1 or 2 would not require a conditional use permit? Is-
Correct, as long as it's a permitted use in that
Right,
district.
Right. Okay. All right, how about sidewalk construction and maintenance? I had a question about that myself, but I think you answered it. My question was, if a sidewalk's there, is it fair to charge somebody for a sidewalk? But with the language for improvement and the understanding that that's what that is, it makes a little bit more sense. Anybody
Just to give
else?
everybody a sense of what we're talking about, currently in the fee schedule for the fee in lieu, it's $55 per linear foot of frontage. For a typical 50-foot frontage lot, you're looking at, a little over like $2,700 approximately
Right.
for that as the fee. And that only kicks in with new development, so minor subdivision or whatever it may be. And again, to keep it consistent, whether it's a existing older sidewalk or no sidewalk at all, it would go into that fund. And part of it is that we do not require construction in those particular cases because you end up with these sidewalks to nowhere.
Right.
Right? And when, or if the city were to come back and want to do a sidewalk along that entire street frontage, often we have to just break it up and pull it out because it all has to line up and be on a parallel with everything else. So it doesn't make sense to have folks actually do it piecemeal.
So I just had one other question. This has come before us before where there's a corner lot and there's sidewalks on both sides. Does that weigh in? Is this only for the front and they don't have to do anything for the side?
The way that we have it currently written does only apply to the front lot line. And as we kind of talked about how that front lot line is determined, talked about that a little bit earlier in the corner lot, lot line determination. And that's something that when we kind of discussed it as staff, we recognized it might, there might be situations in which I think previously it would have counted for both. But we think that the changes that this will make will cover, will meet the intent with this fee. Now that we know how to apply it and make sure we're applying it fairly, we should be actually collecting this fee.
And this is for new development only, you said?
New development, specifically minor subdivisions, or if you are developing a single-family dwelling on a lot that is not part of a major subdivision that had those sidewalk improvements built in. So it's an attempt to, as Bill was kind of saying, making sure that we are taking the nexus of this, of saying, okay, new development, new structures are going to increase the foot traffic on sidewalks without double charging a lot And that's kind of, in the proposed language, we talk about fee timing. And so in the timing of those fees, making sure that certain, subdivisions are charged at subdivision, when it's charged at building permit, when it's charged on site plan, and that just depends on the development type. If it's condos, if it is a single-family dwelling, if it is a minor subdivision, to make sure it's caught, but not then double charged.
But the larger subdivisions, the developer would put in the sidewalks.
Correct.
All throughout. So
Correct.
this is only where the city would be responsible for putting in the sidewalks?
Generally speaking, in the situation of a major development that has a major subdivision that is included, that has constructed those sidewalks, this would only apply if you're further subdividing. So if you were to take a lot in that major subdivision and then split it into 3, then the sidewalk fee in lieu would apply, because you're kind of creating new units, creating new development, therefore creating more demand on the sidewalks.
Okay.
We didn't want to unfairly punish corner lots.
Right.
Just because they have twice as much. And especially given the fact that the city's prioritization schedule on sidewalks
Yeah.
has to do with the primary block faces. So where the majority of the houses actually face onto, those are the most prioritized sidewalks in town.
I just asked because I know it's come up in the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just one quick question on that last thing you just said on, when you're subdividing a lot that was already subdivided, major subdivision, how does that work with a duplex or a triplex? Is that going to be applied again to each of those new units?
I would want to double check the language, just because we went back and forth rewriting this quite a bit. So I don't want to misspeak, but we can always pull up that language just to make sure that we've captured that, because that is something that we discussed, is if you already have a duplex and your major subdivision is just turning that from like a one lot ownership to 2 lots. I believe our intent is to not then recharge that fee, because you're not, similarly to parks, in that you're not necessarily creating a new unit, new folks live in there. So to just try and keep it proportional, the fee proportional to what we're trying to capture, the development. So the language, we do intend to clarify that that is not, in that case, it would not be required. As you can see through all the red lines, this went through a couple different iterations. so.
Basically, if if the code allows for that type of development, that level of density or whatever it may be on the individual lots that are created, and the developer builds the sidewalk, and there's no additional subdivision of the lot, I would take this language to mean that they can go ahead and develop it as is. The only time that we would charge a fee in lieu is if they came back and did a subsequent subdivision of those lots, right? So the subdivision plat sort of establishes the lots that are on record where the construction of the sidewalk was required. But if there's any further subdivision of that down the line,
Then it would apply.
then it would apply. It's tricky.
But you're saying that then if you split the lot into 2 lots for a duplex, it would not apply? Would that not be a subdivision?
No, I mean, that would be a subdivision.
Right.
But if it was a duplex unit on the same lot,
Right, but but a lot of times I know they build the duplex and then they split it. And so that would seem to be an unfair use of that fee to me.
Yeah, I have questions about the same thing. So this fee is being charged sorry to be pedantic on some of this stuff.
Well, this is what this is for.
oh,
so
believe me,
don't think-
we've taken a lot of time talking
Go
about
ahead,
this.
yeah.
So
5-year-old neighborhood,
Right.
brand new sidewalk, developer, builder, any lot owner wants to increase the density, put a new unit on a lot, do maybe a duplex conversion or whatever, then they pay a fee in lieu for a sidewalk, even if the sidewalk's already included and brand new.
only if they're subdividing, so in the case that that sidewalk has already been built,
Yeah.
as part of a recent subdivision, only if they were going to be subdividing that lot.
Correct. So, but that's a duplex
duplex,
conversion
right.
is the initial question, but then let's say it's 3 lots. Let's say I create 3 lots out of a large lot. Or maybe you do cottage court, which I have some questions about. But, so you're saying you're going to collect a fee on those development applications?
That is what this language would,
I mean, I feel like the whole point here is if we're adding density to our sidewalk network, we need to pay to maintain it and improve it and expand it, right? Like, I can see you getting lots of questions, but a sidewalk exists, but like, you're just gonna have to say this over and over and over.
Yeah.
Yes, but we're letting you build more on your property and adding more people, and the sidewalk network has to, as a whole, has to support that.
that is the overall message, yes.
Do we want to even mention how that applies to ADUs and density increases? But never mind.
Well, it shouldn't, because
yeah.
ADUs aren't subdivided.
But it's an
But
accessory
ADUs
use,
are
Don.
increasing
They
density.
are, but they're not subdivided, so they
I
wouldn't
know,
have to
I
pay.
know, that's semantics.
Anybody else on this particular topic?
I don't think we're not at commissioner discussion right now,
Yeah.
are we?
No, we're just having questions. at
Okay.
this point.
Okay.
Could you give me an example of single family, what's an example of a single family development? I saw it in the language for the sidewalk fee that this would occur. Because single family development would be on an existing lot. I'm submitting a building permit, right? I'm not doing a development application. So like what is an example of that?
Basically, let's take anywhere in the R2 residential core in town. If you had a vacant lot that you were going to build a single-family home on, whether it has an existing sidewalk or not, the fee would be applied.
As long as it wasn't part of a previous
Development,
subdivision.
recent development.
Yeah.
And that comes in for that's just, if I'm getting at your concern here, that's not a development application. It's just a building permit.
It's just
in
a
that
building
case.
permit.
Right.
So there's a fee, and there's now a sidewalk fee with the building permit.
Correct.
Yes.
That would be a lot more.
Why don't we just say that? Why don't we just say there's a,
I
when
think
is
there
there
was
not a
before
sidewalk
though,
fee?
but the applicability was what was not clear.
Yeah, it exists.
It
It's
exists
just
now.
When it's applied
Yes.
has been the question.
Yeah, but so why don't we just wipe this clean and say all building permit applications will have a $55 per?
Because it doesn't
not
apply, so
all,
if you come in, let's use your development just for fun.
Yeah.
So Mesa Ridge.
right.
You already gone in and subdivided, and you did build the sidewalks there.
Yeah, we
correct?
had to.
Right. So
Nowhere. They're to nowhere right now. It's all
Well,
knowledge,
right.
but.
But it was big enough to substantiate a requirement for you to build those sidewalks. Now, if you were to sell one of those lots to somebody and they were to come in with a building permit for a single-family house, separate from you, they would not have to pay that fee in lieu because the sidewalk was just put in as part of that subdivision.
But if they wanted to put in a duplex, they
Right.
would.
If they want to put in a duplex
Split it.
that they split, then yes.
Which I do and has been the plan all along. But I'm not actually, I think this is way more applicable to there's not parity on sidewalks in town. I think that's why you're getting at this fee. But there's plenty of lots in town that exist where someone's going to want to build a house and they're going to say, well, my subdivision was approved without a sidewalk. And then you're going to say, well, at what point, like, what's the arbitrary point in time that we're saying?
Yeah.
We're going back to say,
Right.
yeah, like, if your subdivision is pre-81 or pre-95, then you have to pay this sidewalk fee. If it's newer, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it occurred to us, we may need to establish a date from which anything forward of that, or any subdivision prior to that, where this would be applicable. And I can't remember
I think there's a date in
I
it.
was going to say, there's,
what we
No?
decided on.
so at least in how it's written right now, and again, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, since this has gone through so many iterations, the language does specifically say if the single-family dwelling, or what you're proposing was part of a major subdivision that provided sidewalks. So in that case of, this was a long time ago, it was part of a subdivision in which sidewalks were not provided, the fee in lieu would still apply, and I think that's captured in the language. There is a question of what will this regulation mean in 20 years? Or in some cases, you might have people coming in to further subdivide a lot, or in this case, it would not be subdivision. It would be if you're coming in, I am building on a vacant lot or a demo and I'm rebuilding on that lot, and it does have sidewalks, or it doesn't, and it's just this is city property. There are some cases in which it might not be applicable, just because of the age. And so I'm trying to speak in a way that's clear, because
So if vacant lot at 5th and J, just, I don't know if there is a vacant lot.
We can look it up. No.
If there's a vacant lot on the old historic grid, there's an existing sidewalk, and somebody wants to pull a single-family building permit to build on that vacant lot, does that fee apply?
Under
It
this
should.
language, yes.
Yeah.
That's the clarification I was trying.
What I was getting at is,
Right.
and just since I'm kind of new to Salida, I'm not totally sure exactly if there's, in that case, if it is part of a subdivision or a major subdivision that happened 60 years ago.
140.
Right. But in that case, I believe the language should still cover when that's applicable.
I think the challenge, now we talk about it, is establishing whether or not that sidewalk was constructed as part of the subdivision versus something that was done by the city.
Right.
Becomes problematic.
Well, like all the development on Oak Street in 291.
Right.
You have all new sidewalks
Right.
there.
And I think it may behoove us to actually put in a date certain. After which, or before which rather, the fee in lieu would apply.
Yeah.
And as far as the nexus and proportionality goes, I think that establishing basically shelf life to sidewalks before they require maintenance and improvements through our Public Works Department might make sense. David Lady might be able to say, yeah, basically, on average, we have to go and replace or seriously maintain sidewalks every 10 years, for instance. And then we could say in this language that anything built prior to 10 years ago of this date would be effective, right? So we'd have to do that math to figure out whether or not the fee in lieu would be.
Somewhere, and I don't remember what section it was in, and maybe I made this up, but I thought I read that something was only applicable if it was, it was like grandfathered. That there was something in there that said that if whatever this was done before the code.
Oh, I think.
Yeah, there's
Before
a
the
few things in there.
22nd of December, that it wouldn't apply.
Yep.
Right, so in that case, just using again Kenny's development as an example, his development was approved before the new code went into effect. So would the sidewalk example of somebody buying a lot and splitting it and having a duplex then not apply because his development was approved before the code?
If we put that language in there, and I have seen it where you have language actually dating back, 50 years, for instance, like stuff having to do with mobile homes and asbestos or sometimes lead regulation or
Right.
whatever it may be, you can put it into the code to backdate it.
Right.
I'll look to Nina if she sees any problems, but if we were to put code language in there to say for any subdivisions or properties that were subdivided prior to, let's just say 2016,
Right.
whatever, July 1, 2016, that they would be subject to the fee in lieu,
Right,
right?
yeah.
For
Yeah,
sidewalks.
I just think that would be something that staff could really benefit from having some more thought on.
Make it less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we'll go to discussion later, as Kenny pointed out. Anybody else on sidewalks have questions for staff? Okay, let's go to the visibility triangle. Anybody have questions on the visibility triangle?
Just one, you said you added a definition of edge of roadway. Can you pull that up? Or,
Yes.
or at least the staff report says that you added a definition.
And it is, and that's not in the definition section, it's in the visibility triangle where it says what that shall mean.
And the reason I'm asking is thinking back to last meeting with that food truck, I think, Bill, you mentioned there was some question
apply.
about what the
Right.
visibility, how that visibility triangle would apply to that particular corner at First and E. So I'm curious
Yeah,
what
this
that.
would move the triangle further into the street and in all likelihood would reduce any challenges that they would have in meeting that. But Kristen's pulling up the specific
Right.
language here.
And does this, while she's doing that, visibility triangle apply only to, I mean, because the discussion we had last time was it didn't apply to a food truck or a vendor. Does this apply across the board, or is it just for?
Yeah, it would be for temporary or
Okay.
permanent because
So-
even if it's temporary, the.
So we wouldn't have
considered-
had to add that to our motion last time?
I think we did, didn't we?
We did add it.
Yeah.
But if this was in place, we would not have had to, because it would have applied?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curb line. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Anybody else on visibility triangle?
No.
Okay, how about murals? We like them.
Yeah, it's funny, we didn't see one for like 6 years.
I know,
and then
now they're
suddenly we saw
everywhere.
3 all
Right.
in like 1 month and.
Right. Creative signs? And it seems like we had something where we approved it and the conversation was, we won't have to do that anymore because the sign is going to another department and now it's back to us.
It's kind of back,
Right.
but the difference is
Yeah.
that you're only going to see it if it involves business promotion
Right.
specifically. Otherwise, it would be considered a mural.
Yeah.
And we would approve it
Yeah.
in-house.
I
And
just
that
got-
approval really is just to verify that it
Right.
has no business
Yeah,
promotion.
that just gave me a chuckle, that's all.
I know, it's gone around and around
Right.
and around.
Anybody else on?
Is everybody clear on what the location, character, and extent review is? Because we've seen this a couple times, like with the Montessori school. I know Longfellow went through it when they came in years back, and
Hospital could do it.
the hospital could do it. There's a number
Mm-hmm.
of public institutions that technically, they don't specifically have to follow our land use application process. They go through the state's process, but they do have to do what's called a sort of a courtesy review, in which they come forth and they provide their site plan to us, and Planning Commission is able to make recommendations on it, and even to the point where, you would say, no, we don't want to see this. Well, technically, they could bring that back to their board, and their board would say, yeah, we want to do it anyway.
Right, right.
Or they can say, let's change it up and then go through the process again. So this just kind of clarifies that process a little bit, because we'd never had that in our code.
And would that have been the case, for example, when the hospital put up their housing units? It came before us,
Yeah,
and it was part of their overall plan.
technically. I don't know if,
don't
I don't know if
know.
residential, though,
Yeah, I don't know that would have applied.
fits into that or not.
Okay,
In
Yeah.
past, I've used it on like utility buildings, like.
Okay, so it wouldn't
wastewater
be
treatment
residential.
plants and
Okay.
some other
Yeah.
things that are not
Generally for
run by the-
institutional use, I mean, I guess you could
Yeah.
say that the Delnay House is
Right.
institutional because it's meant for the patients and
Right.
families.
just curious, that's okay.
Yeah.
Where are we? Okay, location, character, extent, everybody good on that? No question for staff. How about the Home Act? Qualifying properties? I'm not sure I know what the Home Act is.
That actually gets a little bit, I believe, to your question about the location, character, and extent review. And the Home Act, it imposes some restrictions on what we as the city can require of certain qualifying developments. Generally speaking, this is aimed at increasing residential density and affordable housing on qualifying properties. And there is this language in the code, if you want to review it, there's a lot of, okay, these are the qualifying developments, these are the qualifying properties. So it's, if you're a church and you want to put in a certain amount of residential, it just limits our ability to say, oh, well, yes, technically that might be allowed, but we say you can only go up one story. And it says that, it's just putting in that we can't do that. And so that all comes from state law, and it's just bringing us into alignment and make that a little clear in the code.
Okay.
Yeah, it was only approved actually this, I think, January or February.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very
Yeah,
recent.
pretty recent.
It's not something that we have to adopt like immediately, but since we're changing the
We
code,
might
it's
as
like,
well.
why not just do it now?
Right, why not? All right, how about cottage housing? Somebody had a question on cottage. Yes, Penny?
All right, I'm a fan of clarifying this. I think this
Yeah.
is a great addition to the code. It seems like there's a lot of implications to this if you're providing code language for individual lots. My initial question is, how do you do this without a PD? Like, is there a whole process now where I have 50 feet of lot frontage and I can do a cottage court? Or
Yeah.
do you see what I mean? Because
Yeah, no, absolutely.
currently what you mentioned about the multifamily consideration where you condo something, like that's kind of the workaround for a cottage court right now. I think this is a great idea to add the ability to have individual lots. The current mechanism for creating it seems to me to be a PD. Is this like yeah?
Yeah.
Building
This
on
is so
that, I'm curious what the problem we're solving here is.
We're solving for the fact that the language about cottage housing in the code right now is really referring to something that we would call multifamily development, not cottage housing. So in other words, if you had one large lot with street frontage, and you wanted to create something akin to cottage housing where you have multiple principal structures on it that would all be rented, so all under one ownership, or even potentially condominiumized, where they're only, you would have like alleys accessing the back of each of those units, and they have a shared open space, common space in the middle. We would call that multifamily. It's multifamily in multiple buildings, right? Think of the Magpie Apartments.
Or Blue
Right.
Jay?
I'm just trying to understand why that's a problem, but I
So
understand.
there's not a problem with it, except the cottage housing refers to that, which is already covered by multifamily.
Right.
Right, because that one lot already has its street frontage. What was really intended, and I think this was a little bit of miscommunication between ourselves, staff, and Clarion when this particular portion got written up, was that we would like to allow for that situation that Kenny is explaining, where you take that same one big lot, but then you divide it up. You subdivide it so that you can have individual homes on individual lots that do not have public street frontage, because we don't call alleys public streets. So in that one case, they back up to alleys, they have that shared open space in the middle, but they may not actually touch the public street in the front. This would be an exception to all the rest of the minor subdivisions or even major subdivisions, and we would call it out specifically as an allowed use. And
Make
it
it
would go.
easier to develop this type of development we want to encourage.
Right.
Got
And
it.
there's, just to add on to what Bill's saying, and to get at your question a little bit more, is the way that it's currently written. In the definitions, it says that it can be on individual lots or on one singular lot. But then there's another provision in the use-specific standards that says if they're on individual lots, which already we want to change because cottage courts should be on their own individual lots. But it says if they are on individual lots, then they must meet all the applicable standards for development, which implies that they would have to meet street frontage, which therefore makes it virtually impossible, unless I'm maybe not thinking of some geometry, but generally speaking, that would make it impossible to do cottage courts on their own individual lots, because they'd have to meet those frontage requirements, which the whole point is that they're not supposed to have to do that. And so, like Bill was saying, we think that somewhere along the way, the intent of cottage courts that the city wanted just got mixed up when writing that language. And so this is one of those cases where there's a conflict of provisions. And so we're just looking to get rid of that conflict.
Are cottage homes specifically for sale on individual lots, or are they also available to rent?
I believe you can rent them, but I don't think they can be, I think there is code language that prevents them from being short-term rentals.
No, I'm not talking short-term, I'm talking long-term
No, correct,
rentals.
correct. But I think there is language that says they
So
can't
they're
be
in,
short-term
the
rentals.
lots and
but-
the cottage home they are individually owned
Correct.
by a person or entity.
Yes.
And they can be occupied by that person or rented out to someone else long-term.
I believe so.
There's nothing,
Right.
there's nothing that would prevent.
And they don't have to
Right.
pay a sidewalk fee.
Well, this is,
This is actually one of those.
this is how we caught the cottage court thing,
Right.
because we were talking about, okay, well, what about in the case of cottage courts? It doesn't seem fair
They don't
to
have street
charge them
frontage.
if they don't have street frontage, but also are we just going to say, okay, well, this big development that does have a sidewalk, like, they should pay the fee, when do they pay it? And that keeps it from being building permit necessarily, which I know you maybe hinted at. It's just charge it at building permit. Well, what about in this case, and that's how we ended up actually catching this language, again, like we mentioned at the 11th hour, because I was like, wait, hold up. No, it does say that they have to in certain cases, and so we just, we're trying to get this in since we caught it, and so with the sidewalk fee, that is where that comes in. That's why there's that provision of and to comment on what you talked about, this being a PD, this would be, I believe, a minor subdivision, would qualify, or minor or major, depending on how many units.
The only reason it would have to be a PD or a variance or anything along those lines is the lot frontage, right? That's the one thing that would limit it, because it's
Well,
still
also-
subject to all the rest of the dimensional standards. You can't go below the minimum lot size
Okay.
for that subdivided lot. You still need to meet the setbacks unless it is if it's a detached, then there is no setback, right? That's, as far as we can tell, that's the only dimensional standard that wouldn't be met through the cottage housing subdivision. And so if we specifically call that out under cottage housing and in the minor and major subdivision sections, those are exempted, then it doesn't need to go to a PD or variance process.
So lot sizes are based on single-family lot sizes or
Depends on the zone.
Residential
probably.
zone.
attached?
Or zone district.
So like in R2, the minimum lot size for cottage court is 5,000 square feet?
No, I think in R2, it's like, correct, sorry. R2, what are we, 52?
625.
That,
So if I want a cottage court,
We reduced that in the
in
new
R2.
code.
you would have to meet a minimum lot size of 56.
Under this language, correct.
Okay.
In R3, it could go down, obviously, there's a big difference.
But it's still higher. It's still the same, it's still a similar lot square. Like,
It's 2,500, I
the
think.
next layer of this, I guess, is what I'm getting at, is that, like, I also think cottage courts need their own layer of, like, dimensional standards and lot sizes. Like, the whole intent is to encourage smaller, denser forms of home ownership that are not apartment housing. And so, like, the classic is like 1,000 square foot, 2-bed house. Well, that's really hard to build
Right.
in Salida right now because of the cost of land.
Right.
So
It'd be
what do
really cool to-
developers get pushed into this fork where they're like, okay, I go higher density, big building, or I go lower density,
Big house.
big building, big house,
Yeah.
1,800 square feet or bigger,
Yeah.
and so, yeah.
No, I hear you, and I think.
It'd be really cool to have it-
Be able
Yeah.
to come up with, in our discussion,
Right.
come up perhaps with a minimum lot size, at least.
For
that,
a cottage court.
yeah,
I thought,
specific
maybe
to
I made this up, but I thought when we had the new code that we reduced the R2 minimum lot size from 56, whatever, because my lot is non-conforming at that level, but I remember thinking, oh, with the new reduction, it would be sort of conforming in size. So
Yeah, a lot of
maybe
it
I made
ended
that
up getting
up.
concentrated around the R3. The one thing we did change there was an additional inclusionary housing benefit. So if you're building the required number of inclusionary housing units, it did get reduced, I think,
Okay.
at 4,000,
I thought it was,
4,500, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, 4,500.
Yeah. But let's
It's- we're in the
revisit
weeds.
that.
It's okay.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I like that idea, too.
And maybe we can strike a balance.
So moving along then to minor policy and process amendments.
Okay, awesome. So these are clarifying existing language, minor inconsistencies or limited adjustments. So again, these are just smaller in scope and impact. Next slide, please. Here they are listed. Take the time to read. And since this is our only slide here, so I think if we want to kind of do the same process of just asking questions here, if you see anything here that you want clarification on, feel free to ask. And then also if there was anything in the staff report under this section that you saw, prior to this meeting or in reading it, if you want to go back over it now. Just because there's so many, we didn't want to do it would have taken another 20 slides to get through them.
So do you want to go through these, board, or do you just want to read them? And non-conforming site features, I think that's the biggest thing that I saw.
Agreed.
I'm kind of curious where you came up with 20% or 2,000 square feet.
Sure.
Is there
Yeah,
a matrix for that, or a
Well,
reason for
this
that?
is another one where we kind of went through a couple different iterations, and we had sort of at first thought about maybe making a requirement at, okay, once your structure is over 10,000 square feet, then you have to come up into, and this is for non-conforming site features, so that's going to be things like landscaping, parking, stuff like that. But then we were thinking, okay, well, what if I've got a structure that's 9,500 square feet and I'm only adding 500 square feet? That doesn't seem necessarily like a big enough change to warrant bringing this all into compliance. And so after discussing it with staff for a little bit, we came up with this language to sort of capture if you are updating your structure, I believe it's 2,000, 2,500 square feet?
2,000.
It
2,000,
says
right?
20% or 2,000 square feet.
Right. And it's whichever is greater, whichever is more. And that's the key piece. That way, because we also didn't want to say, okay, well, if you've got a really small lot, adding 1,500 square feet might be a big addition that isn't necessarily being caught. Versus, so providing a hard number, that's kind of where we got hung up, is it depends, the impact just depends on the size of the existing structure. Because adding 1,000 square feet is very different if it's a 1,500 square foot building versus a 20,000 square foot building.
And bringing the features into compliance, would that be the features of the addition?
No, the features of the site. So again,
Entire
big one, like
site.
landscaping,
Street parking.
Sidewalk fee.
Right.
And so this, and just to note, this would only apply to non-residential and certain multifamily projects, not to single-family residential, for instance.
No,
right?
I get that. I just
And-
wonder, commercial properties are such a big, revenue stream for us. I sure wouldn't want to do anything. But, again, if something is non-conforming to begin with, they can't really meet the compliance code if their building is non-conforming. Like, for example, like a front setback or a side setback or a loading dock or whatever. On the original building, we can't force them to change that.
Correct. It's more, and maybe we can certainly talk to Nina about this, but this is intended to address some of those other issues that are not necessarily related to the existing building setbacks, or boundaries. It's meant to apply to the landscaping, the parking, et
outdoor
cetera.
lighting. That would be a
What was
site.
that?
Outdoor lighting would be
Outdoor
another
lighting,
site feature.
Things that are more easily addressed to help bring it up to standard.
That makes
If you
sense.
think about it, there are a number of these properties out along the highway, for instance, parking that have no landscaping.
Right.
No lighting.
Or no
that-
appropriate lighting.
And we're just trying to strike that balance
Okay.
between what is a good threshold to require that without, being
Right.
ticky-tacky.
Well, and
there is.
I
sorry for-
highlighted, to the maximum extent practicable.
That's exactly what I was gonna bring
Because
up,
that's,
right.
that's sort of a subjective thing.
Yeah.
So who decides if the maximum extent
That
is
would be,
practicable?
that would be Bill.
Would that be
That
Bill?
would be
Yeah.
the director.
Yeah.
And I absolutely just, to recognize your concerns, and generally speaking, when writing something like code, you want it to be as remove aspects of discretion where you can. But I think, our thought process behind this was it can be so site dependent. And sometimes in my own personal experience, sometimes you have like an old strip mall that comes in and suddenly the parking requirements, they
Right.
just don't make sense for the
Right.
site. And so that gives staff the discretion to say, okay, to the maximum extent practicable.
As determined
practicable,
by staff,
As determined
I would add.
by staff, yes.
Because I would say that would be, or the director, or whoever it is that needs to be making that decision. Otherwise, you'd have a big argument about what's practical. Anybody else on that one?
Well, and I guess maybe we just with that, to your point, it might be useful just to see what, Kristen, if you could bring up the code, how it's actually written in code, because it might cover that already.
I read
To-
through
to-
that, but I didn't
It's
see
going to be in
anything.
non-conforming site features up in the front of the code.
To clarify that though, Bill, quick question. I think you just said it might apply to the way this is written, it applies to non-residential.
Right.
So, but you just said it might apply to some multifamily.
Yeah, I think the language is in there.
And is mixed use multifamily or is mixed use non-residential?
Good point.
Mixed use is considered commercial, right?
Go up a
Not if
little
it's
bit.
resident, is it?
If it's
Yeah,
housing,
3 or more is often considered commercial by like city standards, which is kind of bummer, but depending on who you ask.
right? Any addition, or, yeah, that's what we have there, modification, increases that's just what's in the report.
But we
All
had
site
some
features.
more specific language. Is it in the existing code that talks about the multifamily? 'Cause I know,
This would show strikeouts.
yeah, it should.
I can double check in the Word document as well.
Well, I don't think we didn't have any provision for updating non-conforming site features, to my knowledge. And it's possible that just in the iterations that got missed, and it should be non-residential and multifamily of a certain size,
Yeah,
in which case we can
because
just add that as a,
Because, yeah, what I'm not seeing here is the language about the 10,000 square feet. Remember, that was the original?
that was my original suggestion draft. And so, but that is not adopted code. That was what I first suggested, and then we decided to
Okay.
change that.
Okay,
So that's where
that
that's
got-
coming from.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I mean, the intent there was, and was that the cutoff? Was it multifamily of over a certain square footage? Like that you had written initially?
Geez, I don't even know.
Could you just say commercial? I mean, does that do it, or do you really want multifamily
Could,
to
I
be?
mean,
Non-residential includes
Non-residential
churches, and so
is better,
non-residential.
yeah.
Right,
Industrial,
yeah, commercial, industrial. Yeah, I mean, I think it could be clarified. Maybe if your intent is not to include any residential. Okay.
You can, I mean,
there's certainly a discussion
Yeah.
to be.
Well,
to be
this
had
is the
around
one you
as
said
long
was
as
still
we
kind
have kind of
being developed.
intent from you all, understood.
Yeah.
We can work with Nina to
Yeah.
get the specific language in there.
Yeah, I think so.
To me, it seems like there's these properties out there that we might have in mind where this needs to happen, but I'm unaware of them, and I feel like I'm being asked to approve something with kind of a general, Highway 50 I've heard mentioned, but like, I'm sitting here trying to think through there are implications to this that I don't, it seems like-
I'll give you a few, and they vary in size and of both the buildings and the lots, just to throw out and think about what we could do and what the intent here is. Walmart is one, right? Walmart parking lot is pretty much void of landscaping for the vast majority of it. This would say that 20% of that building would need to be expanded, or by 20%, in order for this to be triggered. That's I believe, a 65,000 square foot building.
Are they in the city, though?
Yes,
that-
they are.
Yes.
They're our biggest
They
sales
are.
tax generator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that would have to be a minimum of like a 13,000 square foot addition,
Right.
pretty sizable, in order for that to be triggered. On the other hand, you've got other properties along 50, such as Ace Hardware. Again, another one that doesn't have any landscaping within the parking. The old 7-Eleven building, which is now the Chili Heads, are going to be Chili Heads, fairly small building, right? That would need to have a minimum of 2,000 square foot of addition in order to trigger anything onto that one. So you've got, and there's a few others out there as well that I could probably come up with, but those are a few examples of where they're just, there's no landscaping, there's no buffering from the parking, where arguably it might be a good idea.
I guess for me, I'm thinking more of like downtown, historic, this building, like where the implications of this could be a lot more significant, or they would freeze properties in time where there's going to be no financial feasibility where you would actually,
Or you could have a very valuable sales tax entity decide to start over somewhere else, which is a scary thought. So just thoughts to those things,
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you've got a large building of that size, the actual improvements would probably be fairly minimal. We're talking primarily about the landscaping,
Yeah.
buffering.
Sure, I just think caution,
Yeah.
there for sure.
Yeah, certainly.
Because we don't want to we don't want to make it so hard for people that they decide to go elsewhere, because that would really be a burden to the city.
Well, and that's, again, where that term maximum extent practicable could come in, right? Because
Right.
if you're going to be severely hamstringing somebody on, say, parking because you're requiring the landscape buffering,
Then you can make an exception.
or at least some
Okay,
You've got a
modifications.
historic building that
Okay.
should have parking, and,
Yeah.
we don't want to make them
no, exactly.
create a parking
Okay.
lot or something like that, so.
We satisfied with that
And
one?
it really does sound, it's like Highway 50 is the
Yeah.
primary
Right.
impetus, and maybe it could be a little bit more tailored to that specific area as well, rather
be
than
done.
applicable to.
Well, I don't
across.
know. I think, you've got Safeway, for example, you've got Natural Grocers, you've got, we've got fairly big, not as big as Wally World, but yeah. Anyway, I just would urge caution, to make sure that it's, that really isn't super onerous, that we get what we think we want without losing a lot.
And actually, for a major, let's just take Walmart, for example. If they're going to do a 30,000 square foot addition, does that come?
Not
Does
20%.
that get to planning commission level of review?
No.
Nope, that is administrative only still.
But that's not 20%.
Say something about
Of
it.
their building. I think he said it would have to be 65,000.
No, it's 65,000 now, I think.
Oh, 65 now?
Right.
Hold on on the answer to that one, because I feel like, and we're going to look into it, if it's over 10,000 square foot, I thought that did kick it up regardless into at least a minor site plan review, but
It's minor site plan review.
It's over 10,000?
Okay,
In general.
okay.
If
Minor?
you look at D, it says minor site plan review to determine compliance with the requirement. Such modification or addition. So that's if it meets either of these.
So it's going to come to us regardless then, for our discretion, not Bill's.
Right.
Where's the language about additions and modifications?
Yeah.
Is that only here, or is that?
It's not in here, it's going to be in, It's going to be in, you'll find it in minor site plan, in the administration and procedures, and I think there's also additions and
Large.
modifications for large structures, but it should match this language, because we changed it from the 10,000.
The large, what do we call it? I forget now. Go to 16.4. Site and building design, large-scale development.
That's it.
While they're looking for that, does anybody else have anything on any of these other topics? I do not. The only thing I had a question on, skipping back down, was the variance language.
Yes.
And if you could, I would like to know, because it said adds lot frontage as a standard that may qualify for a variance. I'd like to, since that's specific to us, I'd kind of like to know how that's
Sure, we
gonna affect us.
we can pull that up after, but it's in there's a paragraph that says something akin to the following standards are applicable to apply for a variance, and then it's like setbacks, height, comma, lot frontage, comma, and that's all that was added was that lot frontage piece in there.
Need to be changed because
Does a tiny house have to have a foundation?
So that is something that we
tiny home
that's
has to have a foundation.
tiny house has foundation, tiny home does not.
Okay, tiny
And so we
house has a-
that's another thing where you're going to see a couple different changes, but basically, yeah, makes the clarification.
Homes are still allowed, but houses need a foundation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tiny houses, and therefore, a tiny house, if it conforms to all the other like additional accessory dwelling unit standards, a tiny house on a foundation can be an ADU, a tiny home is not. And we also just added,
Not.
because a tiny home is not on a permanent foundation.
So,
Tiny
but
home,
RVs
anything on wheels cannot be an ADU.
Correct.
It has,
Longer-term occupancy.
But it can.
it can have longer-term occupancy under certain specific situations.
Oh, I thought we allowed tiny homes on wheels
Let's see,
to be ADUs.
tiny houses on foundations. Anyway,
I didn't realize we're removing RVs and tiny homes in the, what's MH? Mixed use.
Yes, mixed use highway. That was something that staff talked about as not. I'm going to let you talk on this one because
This one is a little bit of a judgment call as far as, aesthetics isn't the word I'm looking for, but, you know, the intent of the use out on the highway is for vehicularly oriented commercial and light industrial uses, as well as certain types of residential. And council had in the past really targeted multifamily out there. It seems that RV use, especially long-term RV use, might be a little bit counterproductive to those particular uses out there, and there is undoubtedly an aesthetic element for what is really the main thoroughfare through town, not through downtown, but through town as far as the number of passersby. So at this point, that is the proposal. If you all have some other thoughts on it, certainly we can get to those, but that was the primary reason for pulling that from the Highway 50 corridor.
Do you remember offhand where they are permitted? Like, is it every other zoning zone? Probably not, but.
Yeah, I mean, we could pull up not offhand, but for all of them, but we could certainly pull up the use table.
But by and large, I understand that logic. And let's see, we just said MH to MC, for example. Like, I mean.
Same. It
Same.
would not be allowed in MC.
right,
There we go. That's the famous chart.
the famous chart. Yeah.
So just can we scroll up so we can see the zone
Recreational vehicle,
districts?
long-term occupancy, so permitted with the,
Long-term,
permitted with the minor site plan.
Where do you see that?
And minor site plans don't come to us, right? They just go.
Correct. Minor site plans are via staff review with use-specific standards that are included. So it would be minor site plan for all the residential, including mobile manufactured home park in the mixed-use neighborhood, but not in the, along the highway, mixed-use highway or MC areas or in the downtown.
Right.
And then yes, in the industrial and ag, or
Yeah.
minor site plan in the industrial and ag.
I can be good with that.
Yep. I have something that I actually messaged you or emailed you about, Bill, that I don't know. It was in, so much stuff that I went through today, about the signs in residential neighborhoods. The chart, I can't pull it up myself right this second, that talks about
Allowable size.
what's permitted in a residential zone, says that it says an individual sign can be 9 square feet, but a total amount of signage can be 9 square feet. This came up last election cycle when people were saying they could put up a gigantic banner size sign in a small residential lot. And I thought we talked about trying to clarify that to say, you know, I don't remember what the dimensions of a typical political sign, for example, is, but I think you can put like 3 of them on a lot to get 9 square feet, 3, I don't know, maybe 4, depending on the size of the sign. But I would like to see some change there so that we, you know, I think 9 square feet total is fine, but we don't want to have gigantic signs. I mean, these lots are small, especially in town. Now, in commercial areas, that's a different story, but in the residential neighborhoods, I think we should clean that up. And I think if Nina's still on the phone, I talked to her about that last time too. And I was kind of surprised to see the individual 9 square feet and the total. So that would indicate you could put a 9 square foot sign up in front of a house. And I think that's too much.
We're looking to see if we have the language.
It's in the chart is where I saw
The
it.
old code did allow for
Yeah.
additional election signage
Right.
during a certain period of the year. And I think it was 30 days prior to election, 30 days after, or maybe it was 60.
Well, I think we should just,
Code, or is it somewhere else?
It was in the old code, but
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know that, in my mind, I don't know that there should be a distinction necessarily between a political sign and a, you know,
Girl
Love
Scout
Salida
cookies,
sign.
yeah.
I think that the clarification for me would be, if you're going to have, 9 square feet of signs of some kind, if you choose for them to be political or not, that's okay, but we shouldn't have one giant sign of any kind in the middle of somebody's front yard.
Yeah, and there was one instance of that where we did actually end up contacting somebody because it exceeded the maximum allowable.
Well, we don't have to
for-
solve this right now, but I would really like to have that solved in this, I don't know, staff, you guys might come up with some language that would, and maybe my commissioners might like to weigh in on that too, but I just think we want to keep our neighborhoods looking like neighborhoods and not looking like billboards.
Yeah. Sorry, just stepping back for a second. Anything,
Here's the old code.
yes, we did have language, and we'll check and see if that got carried forward. Additional allowed signage during an election season, during the political campaign period beginning 90 days prior to an election and ending 15 days following the election. Each residential dwelling unit in any zone shall be allowed an additional 9 square feet of sign area for the purpose of expressing opinions concerning candidates, ballot issues, and ideological positions. But the height in individual election signs shall be limited as established in the section, which is 9 square
Sure,
feet.
but I think 18 square footage of signs
Yeah.
of any kind is too much. So I would argue
Let's
that
look at what we have.
9 square feet total.
Residential.
And in residential, and that an individual sign, measure just a regular typical yard sign.
Just for process, Bill, that would probably have to be a separate code amendment. We can't just add that on the fly to this, right?
Well, there was signage in, the chart is in here that said that's where I picked it up. Hang on, I'll try to find it.
Oh, I think you're referring to,
The allowed uses or allowed, I can't remember now.
For Spartan athletes.
I was gonna say, we did include Lynch because, just because since I made these changes, I know that we didn't touch on this. I didn't realize that was something we were concerned with. And kind of to Don's point, that might be something that makes more sense as a separate amendment, just because that gives staff time to really drill down and find the right language.
I'm not married to the fact that it has to be in this, but I want to have
No,
that
absolutely.
solved one way or another.
Good to know.
And
I guess the one
I'll try to find
caveat I
it.
have here is
Yeah.
I don't think we want to involve the city in election type stuff. So I think it makes sense to have a separate allowance for elections. That way when the time comes around, people aren't like, oh, I already have a sign, you're restricting me from election stuff.
Well, I mean, the other side of that is, if we say it's for any sign, it doesn't matter. You know? I
Right,
mean,
but if they already have a sign up for, I guess.
well, if
for
I have
whatever
a sign
reason-
up for whatever reason, and I decide to put a political sign on top of it, or take that one down and put the other one up during that 90-day period, that's my purview.
Agree, but it could be perceived by someone as like, this was fine all along, but now that it's election stuff, you're making me
Well,
change
you know,
things.
well, and I get what you're saying. My institutional knowledge over this thing, and I talked to several people about this last election cycle, was it was maybe an unwritten rule, but it was always 9 square feet, period. That's what you got. And then this time, somebody challenged that, and it became, in my opinion, over the top.
There's a couple different ways to go about this, and glad we have Nina on, just in case I accidentally misspeak here. But just in how I've seen it done, you know, there's a couple different ways to approach it. Say, not suggesting this, it's just an option.
Sure.
But disallowing certain, like yard signs, and you would define what exactly a yard sign is, and we say this is only allowed, this type of sign is only allowed 90 days prior to 15 days post-election. However, you might just put a sign on there that says, love wins, love it, something that, or, you know, something completely non-political, because then you're not, what you are then regulating is the type of sign and the duration, not the content. So regardless of whether it's political or not,
Sure.
but the timing around an election, I believe, is something that can be regulated, just not calling it a political sign. Or you could say, and I think this might be a little bit closer, Francie, to what you're maybe suggesting, is saying you can always have 1 yard sign that can be 3 by 3, or, you know.
You can always have 9 square feet of
You can
yard
always have
signs.
9 square feet.
Individual sign,
of-
not to exceed X of any type.
And say you have 3 that are completely non-political, and that's your 9 square feet. At any point, if you would like to change one of those out for something that
That's
has a
exactly
political
what I'm
message,
saying.
that's allowed, because we don't regulate sign content.
That's right.
So,
And somewhere in here it said, it talked about the temporary nature of temporary
Exactly.
signs.
Kristen's going to pull it up right now, right there.
Seemed to indicate that you could have
So
an
the
additional
current
9 square.
language does have temporary sign provisions, which do allow for additional signage for what's not supposed to be more than 90 days per calendar year. And obviously all the rest of it there. Number 5 specifically says residential uses shall display no more than 3 temporary signs at any given time with a total square footage per residential lot not to exceed 9 square feet
Right.
of temporary signs.
So
So
that's
that's on
your
top of
3.
the regular sign.
That's right. Or any sign.
So
Temporary sign.
that's what we have on the books right now. And, you know, if you all want to,
I'd like you
Discuss
guys to
that.
give some thought to that. I don't want to take up the whole night talking about it, but that's a concern to me, and, you know, I would like
I
to.
can,
I would just
we
say
can
it's not
add,
really clear what's temporary and what's not. Like, I
Right.
could put a
just said-
political sign up there that's permanent, and is that?
Well, it said 90 days.
well, you
Right.
could have a
I can't, because
political.
there's nothing on there that says my political sign has to be temporary. It doesn't
that's
define what temporary or not is.
Right.
Yeah, it would be a sign,
Right.
right?
That would be my
out there.
sign that
You could have,
Bill's awesome.
None of this,
Yeah.
none of this applies to commercial signs, right? Like,
The commercial is different, yeah.
that's
okay.
correct.
You can have a great big sign on a commercial.
So it's
Francie is number 1.
permanent versus temporary. is
I'm
really
for
good.
it.
Yeah.
Dan, it's not.
You're not going to have a permanent political sign, hopefully.
Code number 1.
I think that you can, if it, you know, but.
Good, and that's content, you're not going to regulate it. in
I
residential.
I got my Spiro Agnew sign still out there, you know.
Just drive up to
Generally, I
TV
think
and
these
you'll
are,
see 'em.
the intent behind the temporary signs is for like one of 2 scenarios. It's political signs, or if there's like a sporting event where we all want to support
Spartans.
Salida High School,
Right.
right? You know, go Spartans, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Real estate
For the,
signs.
you know, real estate signs is another one that could be in there.
Roofing companies.
I would,
all of of those signs are temporary signs.
Right.
I think that this is going to require more discussion. And
I
it's
do
going to
too,
require
for
some more
staff.
staff. So I appreciate you bringing it to my attention so we
Does
can.
anybody mind if I change the subject?
Please.
Okay, I just want to commend staff. I think the change to the Sackett's overlay addition of the 20 feet instead of a story and a half is great.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Makes it easier for us, I'll tell you
It's
that.
easier for everybody.
And that was the only height that we had in code that was by stories and not by feet. So that
Right.
was the
It's
intent
just
behind that
weird. What's a
change.
story and a half, you know?
Correct.
Okay.
Going back to the prior question on the non-conforming, Kristen, did you find, is there a size where it bumps it up to a major?
Yeah, we have one section, it's 16490E, and I think, Corey, let's bring it up, because I think we meant to actually strike the existing language, and it may not have been stricken. Otherwise, it seems like there might be a little bit of confusion there. But basically, that it would correspond with the idea of it needing to come back into conformance. So anything that is 20% or 2,000 square feet would need to come to us as site plan review.
Okay.
So underneath that, no worries, right?
They just have to conform
Yeah,
underneath that.
yeah.
Okay.
It's issues.
Okay,
Your
commissioners.
scrolling finger is going to be tired.
What
after
else
this.
do you guys want to talk about? Anything? Kenny, you got something?
Open space dedication.
Open space
applicability.
dedication, yes. 164110.
So here's that language, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Under 2B there, additions and modifications. Corey, I think the two number ones, I think one of them was, the first one's supposed to be scratched.
Yeah.
The first one is supposed to be scratched.
So it's just the red line
Apologies.
there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that just replace number one with the new language.
Do we need to
Second
say
one
though
is-
specifically that comes in for minor site plan review?
I don't think we need to. I think that it might be nice to add that in as a clarification, just catch it where we can. It should be also captured in minor site plan and in non-conforming site features, but
Yeah, we'll make sure all those line up.
Okay.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Open space dedication, Kenny.
Additional residential dwelling units, do existing lots in town create additional residential dwelling units?
when you say lots, do you mean like an existing
Like
dwelling
an
unit?
existing
It's a house.
lot
and-
From 120 years ago,
Yep.
or 80 years ago, or 90 years ago.
Sorry, what was the first part of that? Of your
If I build a
clarification?
house on a vacant lot, is that an additional residential dwelling unit?
Yes, in that case, it would be, yes.
Really?
Because we do have
Go to
it by,
the applicability.
I don't think,
It actually is not included in the applicability here. 'Cause
apologies.
If you go to 164110B,
Yep.
those.
Is it minor subdivision?
Yeah, minor
That's it,
subdivision
okay.
is caught, so plan developments, major subdivisions, minor subdivisions, condo plats of any size, and major and minor site plan reviews that include a minimum of 5 residential units. So that would then exempt other types of developments such as single-family construction, single-family on a single lot, duplex on a single lot, as long as it's not being condominiumized.
Yep. So it hasn't, so that aspect of it has stayed the same.
Correct.
Kind of how it's been. We're not changing that.
Yes, I think, and my apologies for misspeaking earlier, I think that the reason this kind of came up is the question of, like, I believe it's, I have a duplex or I have existing rental units and I want to condominiumize them. I want to do a duplex conversion. So that's where the creation of additional primary residential dwelling units, that's why that was added. To say, okay, I have an existing duplex and now I'm going to put them on separate lots. We're not creating additional residential units.
Yeah, which
That
may
was
need to
the
clean up
the
that.
intent, which may need some cleanup of the language there.
But I own a lot in town and I'm creating a 4-unit apartment building. Do I have to pay open space fees?
Not if you're not doing any of these as of right now.
Well,
It seems like you would,
it could
because he's creating additional units and it is increasing the total number of units.
It depends on zone district too, because a minor site plan might require, like four new units in R2 might require a minor
Right.
site plan. I
Yeah.
can't remember it all,
Yeah, yeah.
but potentially.
And then, and kind of along the lines with that, can you bring me up to speed on the open space fee? The open space fee is 12% of assessed value of the land, is that correct?
12.5%. Yep.
Or the assessor value or something. So like if I come in with a building permit for anything on an in-town lot, am I now paying, like, and it triggers one of these things, like if it's a minor, like if I split one lot into two lots, I'm paying open space fees on the entire thing, right?
On the unimproved lot. On the unimproved land assessed value, yes, you would be.
Okay.
Yep.
And in cases where that's kind of subjective, how does that, like, maybe I'm getting in the weeds, but,
I mean, there are provisions in there, like if the owner disagrees with the assessed value of that land, they can have it appraised, and then have the option, the city has the option to accept that or to challenge that appraisal. There's specific language in there regarding that. I will say this particular section and the fee in lieu is going to have more attention put onto it later on this year for a variety of reasons, but it may end up taking a little bit more than what we're willing to wait on for the rest of these changes. We were trying to address maybe just some minor changes within this particular section now, but kind of looking at that first red line.
I
I'm
think
not
that
sure
what happened here is what we were trying to do was keep the fee from applying if you've got an existing duplex or existing apartments and then you condominiumize, you're just changing the form of ownership. But in writing this language, and again, this is why it's always good to have extra eyes on it, because we have our intent and we're like, oh, this meets the intent, but then I see that definitely does seem to imply that if you're building a new structure, you're adding a residential dwelling unit, and therefore you would, and that's not our intent.
yeah, and I guess I wonder if we should, my suggestion here, while we're on the topic, would just be to just spell it out, like minor subdivision, major subdivision, these places get open space fees, these don't. Like this is really, I'm confused by it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just said
Plain language, good.
minor subdivisions, major subdivisions, these things trigger open space fees, end of story.
Yeah, like if it really only applies to those A through E's, then
Yes.
Except in the case of, again, if we say minor subdivision, okay, open space fee happens at minor subdivision. Well, what a minor subdivision might include those cases of, you're just like a duplex conversion, splitting those into two lots. That's a minor subdivision. We also, there was some not clarification. I mean, well, that again, that is our intent, and I think we're meeting.
Yeah.
We understand the intent, and I agree that this language does need to be worked. But if we all make it clear on what the intent of this is, we can rework the language to sort of make that more clear. That's just all I wanted to say is that I hear you. I understand that now that I'm seeing it, that does not quite. I think we,
Right.
in an effort to keep open space fees from applying when they shouldn't apply, we might have accidentally introduced some ambiguity that we did not mean to. So appreciate you catching that, and that will be changed because you're right. We don't want a new building a single family to have open space fees apply to that.
Well, maybe we do. I'm not trying to argue one way or the other. I'm just trying to.
But that was not our intent in writing
Right.
this.
So, Bill, process-wise, is this, since I think we're in agreement maybe that it needs to be reworked and revisited, would we move this forward with pulling this particular one out? Is that, or
That might be-
rely on
That could be
staff?
a good recommendation to make. for that specifically.
I mean, I think you're talking about kind of logistics and how we move forward, because we've also had the sign comment. And this is actually a really good illustration, because I read this table and thought I had it handled, and all these questions, I'm like, oh.
No. Right.
I guess, like, so I'd like to allow us to make progress here, but also make sure we're not passing things through that we shouldn't be.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's why we're bringing it in front of you all, you know, because
So-
we've put our eyes on it.
Right.
But ultimately, we're going to miss some stuff.
So we sort of morphed this into commissioner discussion. Have we been keeping track of all these things that we wanted to amend?
Yes,
Okay, okay, good.
sure.
So is there anything else you guys want to chat about on these changes?
Do you want to run us through the typos? There's a third category, right?
There is, I am not going to go through them. The only thing that I want to point out is that last one, provisions already adopted by city council. That's referring to like the turf section, and no changes made to the adopted language. We're just putting it in code.
Right.
Kind of like we said, we're already amending the code anyways, might as well just put it right in there. That's why that's in there as administrative correction. But no, there's some things, you know, accessory is missing a C. And it first, there were a couple things in sign code that were just misspelled that when I caught them, I don't know why they weren't redlined or Microsoft Word didn't catch them. But these are spelling errors. There should be nothing that is,
Right.
other than, nothing that impacts policy.
So we appreciate your review. We don't have an applicant because it's you. We don't have any public input. Is that correct? Nobody's online
Nobody's
waiting for
online.
us to hear them. So are we ready to close the public hearing and have discussion and move along? Okay, let's
Yes.
do that. Let's close the public hearing and have official commissioner discussion.
One last question.
Well, yes, you can still, yeah.
The table, why is there green, yellow, and red on the table?
It's the difference
Major,
in the
minor,
major,
and
minor,
Oh, that table.
this one. It's
So
the
red is-
substantive policy and then administrative policy. It follows the staff report.
Yeah, the changes are in order of the sections in the code. The
Right.
color refers to the
Right,
category.
so you can go to the pink ones, the biggies, and then look at the code and, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so Commissioner discussion, understanding that Bill's been taking copious notes. Do we have any more discussion on these things, or do we want to entertain a motion that would include the things that we've recommended, that Bill has noted?
I think well, first of all, I guess, I think there's 2 or 3 that I think we want to maybe hold off.
Okay.
A lot of this.
The open
So
space?
If we could just pull the, yeah.
What are the other
identify
things,
those are
right?
for right
Let's
now.
identify those.
Yeah, maybe along those lines, are we saying like, maybe for purposes tonight, a bulk of this we're good to approve?
Yes.
We table a few of these issues for
Pull a
later
few of
discussion?
them, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yep.
So what are the items that we're going to pull for
I think
later?
cottage housing might be one to discuss further.
Especially with your comments on the dimensional, really
Yeah, I
having
mean-
a specific set of dimensional standards for that cottage housing might be a useful thing.
So we've got the open space, the cottage housing, the sign issue. What else?
But do we land somewhere on the non-conforming site features? Or are we good with that?
I think we're good. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Knowing that it does go through at least the minor site
Right.
plan process. Yeah.
And the things that we've recommended throughout our discussion here tonight that Bill's noted will get reworked. So really what we need to identify is things that we want to pull for more discussion.
Can I add one for more discussion?
Sure.
Possibly.
What?
I've never known when to bring this up or where. Maybe I'm the only one. I would love us to but it's gonna be exemplified in, I think, at least my opinion of the cottage court discussion, and that would be side setbacks in certain cases. I don't know if that would be appropriate to add to here. I mean, I'm open to suggestions
Are you
from
talking about
staff.
side setbacks within the cottage housing?
So within cottage housing, within these, we have a lot of these 25-foot lots. You know, we have 5-foot side setbacks. And so that forces development into two very tight patterns. For example, you go to Buena Vista, they have 3-foot side setbacks on a lot of their historic lots. And in my opinion, it creates a much more appropriate, like, dimensioned streetscape. Cottage courts, especially if you're trying to go smaller houses, I think there's an argument to be made that they can be closer together and still function well.
So I remember having a discussion about this with Greg that one time about eaves, remember? You're allowed to have an eave 18 inches into the setback. So if you were to take a 3-foot setback and you had an eave on both, that was 18 inches, you're pretty close. So, I hear what you're saying. I'm not opposed to think about it, but I'm not sure, personally, this is the time to do that. I think maybe we would want to have a full discussion about that.
Yeah, either or. I think these topics, I'm not sure, I'm like, possibly we're dealing with corrections to the code.
Right.
Some of these are in line with those kind of broader.
Right.
Yeah, whatever you guys want. I would just suggest it's a topic that maybe we
It's like
could
a good
touch.
work session topic. It seems like there's
Exactly.
some things here that y'all have identified and working
Yeah.
through the plan that we want to fix because they're coming up. Like, let's fix them and then let's
Right.
talk about
Right.
those, because we
Right.
can change it anytime we want, right?
Right, right.
Let's have a good work session discussion and then maybe bring something forward.
Yeah, I'd support that.
I think
Yeah.
95% of this is okay to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
So the signs, the open space, the cottage housing, are those the 3 things I'm hearing? Are there more?
What do the height on uneven lots? Like, I don't know if that's a
I think we're
fix the
good on
thing.
that.
We're
I
good
was
on
fine
that.
with that
No,
one.
we're good on that, I think, as they described it.
How about the sidewalk fee in lieu timing as far as like
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Give us a
age of
date.
the
Yeah.
subdivision?
I would love, yeah, I think sidewalk fees could use a little bit more discussion.
Yeah, and certainly if the staff wanted to research and propose a date certain, I think that's really the what's needed there, or a huge part of what's needed.
I also, yeah, on that, I think you have some complications where you have new subdivisions that have just put in a lot of infrastructure. And then you have situations where, to me, there's a distinction if it's clear that the development has borne the cost of infrastructure, which the new standards are much higher than they used to be. And then you have this situation where, essentially the rest of the city that never had sidewalks got the city on everybody's dollar,
Right.
And so,
Well, they've already paid for that sidewalk when they purchased their lot and built the house.
well, but that's kind of
New
baked into the
development.
new development. At some point in time, I think the point in time is appropriate, but also thinking through the lens of like, you're going to get a lot of people say, well, I got a sidewalk in the city,
Right.
but I do see maybe more applicable there where you're kind of paying into the kitty that's already paid for your sidewalk there, So, I don't know,
I
that,
think what Bill was suggesting was the sidewalk fee in lieu timing, not so much the sidewalk policy. Is that right?
Primarily, yeah. Basically creating a
When is the-
timestamp,
when
if
is
you
the
will,
fee-
of
When is the fee in lieu due?
No.
Well, there's that.
How old?
Oh, and
That's
how-
different.
Right.
Sidewalk.
And how, yes,
Not
at
how
what
old is the
point does
sidewalk.
it trigger the fee?
How old is this? Like, if I'm buying a lot in a subdivision that
Right.
built sidewalks.
Right.
Right.
And they did it 20 years ago.
Right?
I'm buying a lot and I have to pay the sidewalk fee.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's the code date and it got
Right.
built last year, that feels pretty unfair to them.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's the timing that we're trying to set.
Absolutely, and or you think about it like Mesa Village, if you walk through some of those sidewalks are starting to deteriorate a bit, and that's what, a 30-year.
20 to 30 years old, yeah.
30-year-old subdivision, so finding that nexus or that particular sweet spot on
Right.
that date, maybe it is 20,
Right.
maybe it is 30 years, whatever that is.
So, Bill and Corey, I'll get back to you in a minute. So these things that we're suggesting to be pulled out, I guess I'm a little unclear what exactly that means. I mean, does it mean that we're going to have more discussion, hear it back, and then send it off? Does it mean that it's not going to be part of this package? Does it mean that, what does it mean?
I'll tell you what our preference would be.
That's what I'm asking.
And part of this just has to do with some of the timing of the rest of this summer.
Right.
if we can address this now, and go through these and get to a point where you're all comfortable with the changes that
These
are made.
points? Yeah,
On
okay.
these 4 or 5 issues.
Okay.
We would ideally like to be able to get your blessing to take this to Nina to confirm the language, get that language updated, and propose that to council at the first reading in mid-July. There's a lot of rationale behind that, but basically it comes down to availability and wanting to get these changes effective in due
Sure.
time,
That makes sense.
before the fall, honestly,
Okay.
if we can.
So let's go through them then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the sign thing, you know where I stand on that. I don't know where everybody else is.
I think the sign one, that one might just have to be
Another,
not to be a contrarian, Bill, but
So
just
that
because
would
that's
have-
like totally new, but we
New
don't
thing,
have any
okay.
language to come to you.
so we will just wait on that. I'm good, I'm just trying to pull us in here. The open space, let's talk about that. The open space, the cottage housing, and I think side setbacks would be pulled, and a new discussion on that as well, Kenny, because, at a work session or something. Sure. It's too big for what we're trying to do right now. And then we have the sidewalk timing. So as I see it, unless there's more that I didn't hear yet, we have the open space, the cottage housing, the sidewalk timing of when it is effective. Those 3
I think
things.
sidewalk timing's pretty, can we just say 20 years or something? Like, is that all we're really deciding here? Or 10, I don't honestly care.
Yeah, I'm honestly trying to think, as far as what we
Right,
have on
right.
record for like
Right.
easily decipherable land use applications that will show who did what, you know, if the sidewalks were constructed. 2015 is like a really good cutoff because our systems became much more modernized at that point.
Done.
And I mean, I realize there may be some, 10, 11-year-old subdivisions where the sidewalks are still in really good shape. However, they may not be. And
I
Those
also
are might
feel-
be mostly built out and are not going to
Right.
like
I mean,
that.
Right.
The internet says a typical sidewalk lasts 25 to 50 years.
lasts.
Yeah, but what about maintenance
But
and?
there
I
may be.
mean, I guess I'm on the side of, I
patching
want
needed
more
to be
money
done.
for expanding and making a complete sidewalk network.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the balance of making sure that we have a nexus for it too, so otherwise a fee can be challenged.
not just
and money.
random,
Yeah,
right.
so I think there's, and that's where I'd maybe ask for Nina's opinion on some of that as well, on are we being discretionary in applying a fee if we just pick a
Right.
date at this meeting?
Well, and going to that point, I trust staff to figure it out and have a nexus that works for the city. And,
Honestly, I think Bill's rationale is,
I do too, but I don't know that we up here
Yeah.
are in a position to make that
pick a date, 'cause
decision.
that's
So,
discretionary now.
so I would say to that, let's just let's put it on our list for Bill and staff to figure it out before it goes to council.
okay.
Is that okay?
I mean, I'd like to see it. I'm not really in favor of any sidewalk fee, but.
Right. Or
No,
open
just
space.
because, what's that?
No, it's okay.
No, I mean, I
Right.
trying to look at this equitably, like, I don't know, it's whatever. I might be in the minority here, but.
Well, we have a lot of sidewalks in this town that are desperately needing repair.
Some blocks don't
Yeah,
even have.
but they're just arbitrarily, as far as I can tell, they're arbitrarily replaced at the discretion of the city. And the city doesn't really publicize.
There is
when-
actually a prioritization schedule that Public Works has.
Is that public?
It is.
You have?
Yep.
Oh, I've asked for it before and been told that's kind of kept hush-hush.
Funny enough, actually, council just asked for it, I think 2 meetings ago. They asked if it existed. David wasn't here to give the answer, but it does exist. It was approved by council 7, 8 years ago, something along those lines.
They also have like a similar street paving kind of rotation, right?
Yeah, yeah. And some of it does change dependent on development. For instance, J Street. J Street was like a tertiary priority. but because of Montessori and some other
Right.
development along there, it's gotten bumped up, and now it's like at primary or secondary.
Right.
So it allows the Public Works Director to make those changes,
Right.
accordingly. But yeah, it does exist, and.
Does that
as the
fee go
funds
into the
are-
general fund or the capital improvements fund?
Streets fund.
Streets fund.
Streets
Okay.
fund, yep.
Is that part of the calculation of the money that they get, like 32%, I think it is, of the budget?
Yeah,
or
at
whatever?
this point, the sidewalk fees in lieu are under the streets fund, so in the currently or historically rare circumstance where we did get that sidewalk fee in lieu, it went into the street fund, and then the street fund pays for the entire street, the complete
Right.
street.
No, I get
sidewalk to
that. I just know
sidewalk.
that the capital improvements budget, was legislated many years ago, and there's a hard amount of the
That comes from
revenue
the
that
sales
goes
tax.
into the capital improvements and cannot be spent on anything other than capital improvements. So my question is, does this fee for sidewalks add to that, or is it part of that?
It adds to it.
It adds to it.
It adds to it.
Okay,
So for the purposes of moving this particular item forward,
thank you.
can I propose that we do not set a date, but our direction is that this can be moved, we recommend approval on this particular item, subject to staff and the county attorney identifying a date
The
certain.
city attorney.
I'm sorry, city attorney. Yeah, we don't want the county attorney to do it. With the city attorney to identifying a supportable.
A nexus for the date.
Certain date.
Yes, okay. I'm good with that. Are you guys good with that? All right.
Great.
So that leaves us open space and cottage housing. And I think we already covered the cottage housing needs that I heard, and that was that we would like for cottage housing to have a separate set of setbacks and lot sizes and things specific to the cottage housing development. Is that
Smaller, right?
smaller? Right.
Dimensional standards.
Dimensional standards, right.
We could develop that to add into the dimensional standards table. I think if we're going to do it as part of this round of updates, I think at minimum, the direction we would want from you all is, would you like that to be, let's say, well, do you want to distinguish the zone districts where that would be allowed? Right, because R1 currently only allows for the minimum lot size, I believe, is 7,500 square feet. Do we want to touch R1, or do we want to do kind of the basically hands-off approach that we did, more or less, with the land use code? Or do we,
Can I make a suggestion?
do you want to set, partially what the dimensional standards has done is with some of the inclusionary housing incentives, we sort of found a sweet spot between relative zone districts. So you would get a benefit, you would get that added density or that reduced lot size, but it wouldn't necessarily go down to the next most intensive zone district. It was somewhere in between. And we could certainly do something and apply that similar here for cottage housing and try to come up with something along those lines, if you felt that was.
Is that something that you could do with this iteration, or are you talking about taking that out and coming back with something like that?
I think there's just to say that we could approve, so the proposed change
Right.
is just to clarify that cottage housing should be on individual lots and therefore make it possible to build
Right.
under code.
And then our
We can
recommendation
approve
would
that.
be to come back with dimensional standards to us to look at for,
I'm not totally sure of the exact language, just like legally on how that is, but I think we can, if you
could
approve
be-
of the language, if we want to have additional
Yes,
things on
yes.
cottage courts, we can maybe put that in with the sign.
and the
We
side
know that we're coming back with
setbacks,
some
and the side
signs.
setbacks, that's.
Dimensional standards
That's
for-
probably safest, because it might really require looking at it in
That
depth.
seems like a
Okay,
discussion.
so what I'm hearing is that we are going to go ahead and approve the language of the cottage housing as presented, but we would like to have more discussion about dimensional standards and having that along with the side setbacks, maybe a work session, maybe the signs can be layered into that too. So the only thing then we're left with is open space.
And, I mean, my question that I brought up on that was just clarity around the additional
Okay.
units. I
Right.
don't know if it's been clear, I'm still
Clarity
fuzzy
around what? I'm sorry.
Open space.
Oh, open space, okay.
I'm still fuzzy on when it doesn't apply, but,
So to clarify staff intent, and we can argue if this is. if
I
this-
know, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Right, well, so, because that is your question, you said you were confused.
Well,
about
my
it.
question isn't as
It's
much
not
about
clear.
staff intent, it's just how do we get to clarity on it, you know?
Okay.
Like,
This is the one where you said just list it out, right?
that's what I suggested, but
I think.
Right.
that's just me winging it, kind of like.
Right.
It's not clear your example, if I'm building a minor
Right.
site plan with 4 units, it's not clear if it's.
Right.
To me, I would read 1 and be like, it does apply. And
Right.
I'd read 2 and I think.
Right. So I think our direction then on that would be on open space to make the staff intent clear, to clarify. I mean, it's in terms of what it
As
affects.
maybe a suggestion,
Yeah.
removing it, so in B1, that results in the creation of additional primary residential dwelling units. Maybe we yank that. And this is, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, so feel free to change. 2, where we say this section does not apply to any subdivision plat application that only changes form of ownership. Do we think that covers those situations, like a minor subdivision in which you're not actually creating any new units, you're just changing ownership, going from
Maybe then also it's
apartments
saying
to...
does not increase the total number of dwelling units.
Right.
You're not changing ownership or the total number of dwelling units.
Instead of and.
And 1 should be, if it's only those things, it should say it's only those things.
Right. This section applies to any residential or mixed-use development as follows.
Why does it clear, see, you're clarifying the ownership, but I think all you have to say is dwelling units.
Right.
Why do we care about the form of ownership?
Well, because one of them could be sold.
Right, so if you're a condo versus a
I don't know.
duplex.
Yeah, but we're saying either of those it doesn't apply to either of those.
Right.
So we don't need to single them
Right.
out.
Yeah, if you have a 6-unit apartment building or if you have a 6-unit condominium
Right.
complex, is the impact the same? It's already
Right.
existing, you're not
Right.
adding anything.
If you're not adding
There's-
anything-
Point that if
There's
we're
still
adding-
dwelling units, so.
Is the point if we're adding units, we should also add open space to,
I think there's some units where you're not, if you're building a single-family home, if you're building townhomes, you're not paying that, and that's the piece that's not clear to me in that.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah, and again, it seems that addition of that results in the creation of additional primary residential dwelling units is where that becomes confusing.
Yeah.
Because that does imply I have a vacant lot and I'm building a house.
Yeah.
And that is not what we want it to do. And I think maybe just removing that, because in 2, we talk about catching those minors. Really, that is to catch, you're doing a minor subdivision process, but not creating any new lots.
Well,
Or new dwelling units, excuse me.
2 has that language about increasing the number of dwelling units, you're talking about.
Correct.
taking that
And I think
out.
we could just get rid of the language in 1, keep 2, and that should cover it.
So get
I
rid
think
of
you're
1
still-
completely and keep.
Get rid of the red that's
The
been
red
added.
line.
Oh, the red lines?
This section applies to residential mixed-use development, including, or maybe get rid of including as well. Or
Right.
something that says it applies to the following list.
Right.
And then underneath that say, however,
It does not
if you
apply.
have one of these things, but you're not actually, you have a minor subdivision, but you're not creating an additional dwelling unit, then no open space.
So
If you have a
It doesn't apply
vacant
to you.
single-family
I'm creating
lot,
3
it doesn't
units.
apply to you.
Sorry, I had a couple.
But if I'm doing a single-family home or 3 units, it's still not covered by either of those scenarios.
A single-family home,
Is adding an additional unit,
Yep.
but it's not a,
But it's.
correct,
it was
and you
part
don't
of-
pay open space fees.
but that's not
Subdivision.
clear
That's
from
not
this
clear in
text
2.
that that's the case.
isn't it?
I think if we get rid of the first one, it does. Or, excuse me, if we get rid of that results in the creation of additional.
How about if you said,
dwelling
this section does not apply, this section does not apply, I'm trying to read this, what your section, this section does not apply to any subdivision plat. This section does not apply to any of the above if it doesn't change whatever.
We're getting like triple negatives.
I know, well, I didn't say that well, but I'm saying, I mean, I'm with Kenny, I don't think you have to say all of the subdivision plat or other application, because you've already said that in one.
Well, I think one of the challenges is the layperson thinks of development
Right.
as like big subdivision.
Right,
Our code thinks of development as creating a new building,
Anything, yeah.
a
Right.
new single-family lot on a vacant lot that's existed for 140 years. So if we could add to number 2, this, I mean,
Or even create
Just
another bullet point
Or another
separate.
bullet.
Because I think if you try to put them all into
Yeah.
one, it's going to
Yeah.
confuse
does
it.
not apply to single-family residential development on an existing lot. I mean,
right.
And why,
Or a few units.
why do we have
That's a good way to say
major,
it.
minor?
What don't
And-
we want to apply the fee to?
Four
Single family home or 4 or fewer units?
4 for units.
Let's just say that.
Right.
Anything else that doesn't increase the
Yeah.
total number of buildings.
Right.
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
go.
Correct.
Or-
So it would be, would not apply to 1 to 4 units on existing lots previously subdivided that were not applicable to this section or something along those lines.
Okay, so you
It would
and Nina
specifically
can figure, and
exempt
Kristen
them.
can figure
Well,
that out.
and the reason that we don't
Yeah.
is because we have yet to do a formalized impact fee analysis that ties the nexus of open space development to individual construction, which is a pretty massive undertaking as far as a study, and something that we are considering doing at this point. And we need time to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But as it is, we attach it to the application type, and which we can do.
And you can just spell out what the types that don't apply.
And does not.
And then
Right.
in neighborhoods where the open space fee has already been satisfied,
Right.
should also be an exception.
should be an exception.
Yes.
Yes, and if that's not explicit, we should make that explicit.
You know,
Right.
like
Right.
Why
Two-
do we
I feel like it should be in the
Two
fee
Rivers,
and
for
lieu.
example.
If you could
I
scroll.
just feel like we're all a city. Open space is needed somewhere. It's not the park right next to your house. It's the park across town for everyone to use, you know? Like, open space is open space.
I 100% agree with you.
So I'm just confused.
So this
But we
E1
tie it to development, and that money, as far as I know,
Well, the fee in lieu can go anywhere, right?
well, the fee in lieu just goes to the operational budget for the open space parks department, I think. So it's not actually tied to infrastructure development for open space. It's just that
Goes into parks, don't
we need to keep the lights on and which is, anyways, this is like a philosophical discussion. I'm not sure why what you were bringing up in contrast to existing neighborhoods that have satisfied the open space fee through,
I guess it's sort of the same as the
Dedication.
sidewalk one, right? If you're adding density in an
Exactly.
existing neighborhood, there's more people in the park. You need
Exactly.
to pick up the trash more often. You
Right,
need to
right. So what I'm,
swings more often.
but if you've dedicated land, if you've,
This is all moot now, like, for your purposes, and you're gonna do this whole study, can we just exempt the I don't know if exempt's the right word, open space fee for single family and up to 4 units?
Yeah.
And call it good?
yeah,
We could do this, we could certainly do that for right now.
I don't know if that's the right way. Tell me if
think-
that's.
No, I think that would be the right way for clarity's purposes,
Right.
while this is
While
what we have
it's
for the
working
code.
out.
And then obviously we would
I think you
change
need
that
to
if we come back with an analysis.
list the things that do not apply. That's it, right?
Seems like it would
Okay.
clarify for people.
Okay, so I think we've satisfied our list. We're going to come back to signs, we're going to come back to setbacks, the cottage housing, and everything else we've dissected
We've made recommendations.
on, right, to the staff. I don't know that anyone on this panel right now can repeat all of those recommendations, and Bill's taking copious notes. So if you're ready, commissioners, I'll take a motion which might include the items that we've recommended and that Bill has noted.
Come on, Deputy Chair.
I move to approve the proposed amendments to Chapter 16 Land Use Development of the Municipal Code, accepting the sections on Or no, we're approving it all.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
We're going to address that later. Yeah, so we're just going to approve everything.
As presented with the
With-
adjustments as discussed during planning commissioner
Want to say
discussion.
that?
Yeah, what he said. I move to approve the proposed amendments with additions as discussed to Chapter 16, Land Use and Development of the Municipal Code of the City of Salida, as the amendments meet the applicable review criteria.
And would you like to add that the panel will, well, we'll do that separately, never mind.
I think that's separate.
Yeah, separate.
Yeah.
We need a second?
Second.
Okay, Dan, second? Okay, is there anything, any
Just
discussion?
to clarify, it is a recommendation that city council
City council, right?
approve
Yeah.
with
Yes,
said.
that city council approved the proposed
Right.
amendments as discussed and modified.
Yes, great.
With the amendment, with the changes and recommendations we've made to staff that Bill has so duly noted.
Yep. Got it
Okay,
all
so
down.
that has been motioned and seconded.
Who's the
Dan
second?
seconded.
Okay.
Aaron motioned
Great.
with some assistance from all of us. And, okay, any more discussion? Let's call for a vote.
Bowman,
Yes?
Irvington,
Aye.
Aye.
Bush,
Yes.
Layton,
Yes.
Primer,
Yes.
Almarigi.
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Wow, that was great. Are there any updates, Steph? I know, you did great. You did great.
Awesome, well done.
Yeah, updates?
Oh, yeah, we've got a joint planning commission with council on July 6th to discuss potential changes to the inclusionary housing policy.
At 6 o'clock?
At 6 o'clock, yes. I think we're the first one on that agenda. We're going to have a little, we really want to create a different format in here when we have the joint meetings. So we're going to actually put the tables down here and council's going to join everybody at
Good,
the
that's
table
like a
around
round
the
table. Yeah, it's good.
Really awkward when they're behind you
Yeah.
all and all.
Yes.
No, what time does that?
6 PM on Monday, the 6th. Let's see, what else we got going
We
on?
extended the planning commission application deadline to the end of the month, or so, I think.
June 29th at 5 PM.
Thank you.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
great. And then we are going to get our committee together and do some interviews, hopefully beginning-ish mid of July. And then hopefully we'll have some new members here.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a full board.
We do plan on bringing what you all just approved with recommendations to council at the July 21st meeting
Something like that.
for first reading. If they choose to pull it, we've got Kristen, Corey, and Nina that'll be here. I'm going to be out on vacation for about 2.5 weeks towards the
Yay.
end of July. Going to Italy. Stoked for that, and but they'll be able to take care of that. I'll be back in time for the second reading and public hearing. First and D, in case you weren't paying attention, we did bring that to council to get their feedback on whether to move forward with what we have already designed, and they did say yes, move ahead. So we're going to be trying to issue an RFP before I leave. To bring on a new developer to take over that project and continue to move it forward. In all likelihood, just because of the timing of grant cycles and everything else, we're looking at a minimum of a couple of years before we can break ground out there. But still very hopeful that we can actually make that happen.
And Bill, if I'm remembering right, council decided to go ahead and accept the work that was already done.
Correct.
So we haven't lost any of the design or any of that, so the
We
RFP will only
own-
be for the development.
Yep,
right?
we own all that, and they did also agree that there'll be some preference points given to developer who's willing to utilize the same architects and engineers that we have been using, just so we don't lose that institutional
Yeah,
knowledge
that's
on
great.
it.
And there's no, at this point, proposing to change, add units, expand, contract. and-
Not at this point, because it would require going back to the drawing board with a
Right.
considerable amount of money to
Right.
have those changes made.
Well, and the 19 units was critical too, because it didn't have to go through a major process, so.
Yeah, and it can be
Yeah.
appropriately parked.
Right,
That's
exactly.
the maximum we really
Yeah.
could do with it.
And it has to be affordable.
Correct. Yep.
Do you want to give us South Arc?
Yeah, South Arc, the RFQ, the questions were due on that one this past week, and so we'll be issuing answers to those questions, and the responses are due July 10th. And we'll be doing a process to select developers probably starting towards the end of July into August on that one. Quite a bit of interest in it, a lot of questions, a lot of things that we kind of, got to think through and come up with some good answers for, but.
How many developers came to the walk or whatever?
We had 18.
Wow.
Oh, damn.
That came to the actual site tour.
Okay.
And people. Some crossover with the actual virtual meeting that we had. A lot of the ones that came to the site tour were on that, but I think we had a few extras as well.
That's a good amount.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yep.
So there's interest out there for sure. That's
All right, if you guys don't have anything, I just want to say thank you, guys. I think we have a few new people coming on board, but what we have right now is a really strong core team. And I'm really proud of you guys, and thanks for stepping up to the regional.
Can we agree no planning commission meetings on the Monday after February? I'm like fading hardcore.
And with that in mind,
me next, March.
with that in mind, all we need is a adjournment.
So move.
Somebody, okay. There we go, we got it. Awesome.
Now that we're closed, I tried to give Bill a free beer at the beer tent, and he would not
It
accept
would not accept